Chapter 947. 7-Star Oceanic Sacred World, Great Void Heaven Temple. Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master sat side by side. The two of them were chatting happily while watching the scene in front of them. It was the scene of Dongbo Shui Ying being accompanied by heart imitation religious master to the entrance of the Star Pagoda. Because it had been half a month since Dongbo Shui Ying's Dao lecture, Forefather Tian Yu and Sword Master were naturally prepared to watch Dongbo Shui Ying attempt the Star Pagoda. Because the 6 great holy grounds were like a single entity, the other cosmos gods were also paying close attention to Dongbo Shui Ying. That time, I felt that this brat's potential is quite high, and it is possible for him to step into the primal chaos realm. Forefather Tian Yu chuckled. But who would have thought that I have underestimated him? He actually reached the 7th level strength at the Unity realm so quickly. Maybe in the future, my Great Void Heaven Temple might have another 9th level Star Pagoda expert. By then, my Great Void Heaven Temple will be like the Blade Emperor City, having 2 9th level Star Pagoda experts among the 6 Great Holy Grounds. Currently, of the 6 Great Holy Grounds, only the Blade Emperor City had 2 9th level Star Pagoda experts. The Great Void Heaven Temple only had 1 Primal Chaos Hall Master. The Primogenita Island only had 1 General Hatchet Palace Master. Hence, it was rare for him to be the teacher of the convention, forcing the Blade Emperor City to let Heart Imitation Religious Master host the event. In addition, Xinghua Hall Master was there for the sake of his son. Hence, there were a total of 3 9th level Star Pagoda experts participating in the Star Convention this time. This was rarely seen in history. Furthermore, there was even a Unity Realm 7th level expert appearing in this Star Convention. That was even rarer. Who knows, he might become a Cosmos God. Sword Master chuckled. Cosmos God? That is difficult. Forefather Tian Yu sighed. Every Cosmos God has their own Dao path. It is only you, Sword Master, who is amazing, cultivating alone in the cosmos to reach the primal chaos realm. After coming to the Great Void Heaven Temple to read through the books before entering closed-door cultivation, you will become a cosmos god. Sword Master was indeed a legend. Before Sword Master became a cosmos god, he was not famous across the entire primal chaos void. People only knew that a primal chaos existence had suddenly appeared in the Great Void Heaven Temple called Sword Master. Not long later, this primal chaos existence became a cosmos god. Naturally, the shock it brought about was much greater than what Dongbo Shui Ying experienced. Countless experts were dumbfounded. Several cosmos gods were watching from afar. Because they were from the 6 great holy grounds, the Star Pagoda allowed them to watch the battle happening within. Several cosmos gods are watching. You have to do your best. Heart Imitation Religious Master said. Of course. Dongbo Shui Ying directly flew into the Star Pagoda. Although this was the Star Pagoda of the Blade Emperor City, it was refined exactly the same as the one in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Dongbo Shui Ying was very familiar with it. On the 7th level of Star Pagoda, a blood-colored stream of light surged out from deep within the mountain range. It condensed into 10 figures. They were the 10 destruction devils wearing blood-colored armor. They were slightly different from the opponents at the 7th level of Star Pagoda in the Great Void Heaven Temple. But Dongbo Shui Ying knew that the difficulty should be the same. Go! Dongbo Shui Ying sent a thought. A black flower bud appeared from nothingness. It caused a frightening surge of world energy that enveloped the 10 destruction devils. With a thought, many flowers appeared one after another. A total of 7 black flower buds appeared. 1 flower wrapped around the other, and the innermost layer was the 10 startled destruction devils. After all, Dongbo Shui Ying's technique descended from the void, and it could not be dodged at all. The surrounding maelstrom of world energy had yet to dissipate when Dongbo Shui Ying shouted, "Extinguish!" He did not show any mercy. He immediately unleashed 7 destruction flowers at the same time. Hong hong hong, even when facing Ba Yin Palace Master, Dongbo Shui Ying was not so ruthless. The 7 black flower buds bloomed at the same time. When it bloomed beautifully, it was also the moment when its destructive power was revealed. The 10 destruction devils let out ear-piercing roars of shock and fury. When everything dissipated, it revealed the two heavily injured destruction devils within. With just a single full-powered move, the other 8 destruction devils had died, and 2 were heavily injured. These 2 had extremely strong defenses. It was primarily because the power of the 7 destruction flowers of Dongbo Shueying was dispersed across the 10 destruction devils, allowing them to survive. The remaining 2 destruction devils were horrified. They wanted to escape, but it was too late. Extinguish. Dongbo Shueying once again unleashed the 7 black destruction flowers. When the destruction flowers bloomed, those 2 remaining destruction devils had died too. That time, I've unleashed my domain illusory realm and sky punishment edge. I've risked my life and relied on my body's defenses to hold on, spending a long time before killing 8 destruction devils. But now, they have been exterminated in the blink of an eye. Dongbo Shueying sighed in his heart. He knew that his combat power should be considered not bad in the 7th floor of Star Tower. According to his judgment, just a single destruction flower was sufficient to reach the threshold of the 7th floor of Star Tower. Since he could unleash 7 flowers, he would naturally be much stronger. Let's go and have a look at the 8th floor. Dongbo Shueying wanted to experience the power of the 8th floor. Xiao. He charged into the sky and flew into the maelstrom passage high up in the sky. The 8th level of Star Tower was actually an enormous battle platform. Countless golden light condensed on the surface of the battle platform, condensing into an expert of a foreign race, wearing a tight-fitting golden armor. That golden armor was as tight as skin. He had 3 thin and long tails, and the tips of the tails were incredibly sharp. He had 2 arms that reached his knees. Golden armored destruction devil. Dongbo Shueying thought. He understood quite a bit of information regarding the destruction devils. The destruction devils were divided into 3 main grades: gray armored, blood armored, and golden armored. The weakest of the golden armored destruction devils were at the 7th floor of Star Tower, and the strongest were at the 9th floor. And above them, there were also destruction devils that were comparable to cosmos gods. They did not have any specific appearances, and when they kept their wicked destructive aura within, most primal chaos existences would find it hard to discover them. Unity Realm? This golden armored destruction devil looked at Dongbo Shueying with slight shock. Exterminate. Dongbo Shueying did not hesitate to send down 7 destruction flowers. Under the power of the 7 destruction flowers, even though the skin of this golden armored destruction devil was slightly damaged, it recovered in the blink of an eye. Die. He immediately forced his way into the region 500 kilometers away from Dongbo Shueying. Because this region was within Dongbo Shueying's law domain, a law domain reconstructed using the structure of the destruction flowers. This destruction devil could not teleport in, and could only rely on his speed to kill his way in. Too fast. Dongbo Shueying hurriedly unleashed the destruction flowers, yet his speed was still too slow. He was forced to teleport and evade. Even when 1 or 2 flowers enveloped him, the other party would immediately tear apart and rush out. The destruction devil was too fast. Dongbo Shueying's offense could not do anything to the other party. Just a few rounds later, he was forced to give up. It seems that I am still far from the 8th level. Dongbo Shueying sighed. Even my strongest offense is far from enough. I have to reach the primal chaos realm before I can try again. Several cosmos gods who were watching the battle from afar were praising him. Even though there were 2 Unity Realm experts who attempted the 8th level in the history of Star Pagoda. One of them was Heart Imitation Religious Master, who had admitted defeat almost instantaneously. The other was Great Emperor Jin Yi, from the Jade Light Sacred Territory. He relied on his absolute domain and defense to hold on for a few rounds. Dongbo Shueying relied on his offense to hold on for a few rounds. The 7 destruction flowers still affected the speed of the destruction devil. In the Blade Emperor city, outside a small house by the lake, 2 figures were currently walking side by side. One was the golden-robed Blade Emperor, and the other was a male wearing a light gray loose gown. He was none other than Lord Locheng. Teacher, what do you think of this Dongbo Shueying? Blade Emperor chuckled. His attitude was humble. If these words of his were to be spread out, it would most likely shake the entire primal chaos void. Because nobody knew that the strongest expert of the 6 great holy grounds, Blade Emperor, was actually the disciple of Lord Locheng. How could a Blade Emperor be the disciple of a primal chaos realm expert? He has some potential. Place him in the reserve list. Lord Locheng chuckled. He is still too tender. It is still too early. Amen. Blade Emperor nodded obediently. Actually, compared to his strength, I am slightly startled by how calm he is. Lord Locheng said with astonishment. He has revealed his strength during the Star Convention, and his name has spread across the primal chaos void. Many primal chaos realm experts have befriended him, and at this moment, he is extremely famous. According to logic, even those with a strong heart realm would be in high spirits at this moment. But he is extremely calm. I do not feel that he is that excited. Blade Emperor was startled. He nodded. Right, that is indeed the case. Interesting. A grin appeared on Lord Locheng's face. The two of them did not know. In the heart of Dongbua Shuang, the person he wanted to deal with was the current strongest expert of the primal chaos void, Sacred Master. Even his teacher Gu Qi had died in the hands of the other party. Dongbua Shuang asked himself that even though this little achievement of his was worth rejoicing over, there was no need for him to be excited. He was still on the Dao path, and the distance between him and Sacred Master was far beyond. Great Void God Palace. Void Primogenitor sat by himself. His gaze could cover every single part of the primal chaos void. But even though the vast void was vast and filled with countless living beings, his disciple Gu Qi was nowhere to be seen. Seeing how dazzling his disciple Dongbua Shuang was, he was delighted. But Gu Qi could not see him. He could not forget that after the battle between Dongbua Shuang and Lei Yin, Gu Qi was so excited that he had no one to talk to. He even dragged Void Primogenitor to talk to him for a long time. Gu Qi, Void Primogenitor muttered. Your disciple Dongbua Shuang is currently the strongest Unity Realm expert in the 5 great sacred worlds. He is even at the Unity Realm level 7. If you knew about this, you would most likely be very happy. Chapter 948. In midair outside Blade Emperor City, Sun Yi, it is your opportunity to become the disciple of Elder Dongbo. This time, you must cultivate properly. If you could step into the primal chaos realm in the future, it would be a great story for us father and son to be at the primal chaos realm. Xinghua Emperor stood there. His unseen aura was leaking out naturally, but his cold and tyrannical aura made every cultivator present feel pressured. Even though he treated Dongbua Shuang politely because of his son, he was ultimately in existence standing at the peak of the primal chaos realm, and had reached the cosmos god level. Yes, father. The golden-robed young man Xinghua Sun Yi solemnly acknowledged. He was currently filled with fighting spirit. Go! Xinghua Emperor nodded. South Xinghua Sun Yi immediately flew towards Dongbua Shuang, Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, and several dozen disciples not far away. Other than the 10 core members of this Star Convention, there were 190 others who passed the preliminaries. They had chosen the 6 great holy grounds, and quite a few chose the Great Void Heaven Temple. But the amount of nurturing they received was ordinary. Monarch, the few of us will be leaving first. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master and Dongbua Shuang announced. Following that, a distorted spatial corridor appeared by the side. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master brought Dongbua Shuang and the others and flew into it. Xinghua Emperor stood there watching until all of them disappeared. It is good that this brat could regain his morale. I hope that under the guidance of that elder Dongbua, a miracle could happen. Xinghua Emperor thought. He was different from his eldest son, who had experienced too many setbacks. When his youngest son Sun Yi was born, Xinghua Emperor had already reached the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. His youngest son Sun Yi had experienced comparatively fewer setbacks, and he was more tender. He had grown from an infant under his eyes. Xinghua Emperor waved his sleeves. Sila, a pitch-black spatial passage appeared in front. Xinghua Emperor took a step before disappearing from the vicinity. This is the Great Void Heaven Temple? Dongbua Shuang and the Inquisitive Sky Hall Master looked at the disciples around them. This was the first time they had entered the Great Void Heaven Temple, and all of them looked at the vast space in front of them in awe. On the huge floating continent in the distance, the majestic Great Void Palace emitted billions of rays of light. The light illuminated every corner of the entire space, covering the countless buildings on the floating islands in a layer of light. Swish! A figure flew over from afar. It was a green-robed man. He bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, Inquisitive Sky Palace Master, Elder Dongbo. Go and make arrangements for these new disciples." Inquisitive Heavenly Palace Master instructed. "Yes." The green-robed male answered respectfully. He then looked at Xing Huasun-yi and the others. "Junior brothers, please follow me." Hence, Xing Huasun-yi and the rest could only obediently leave and accept their arrangements. From then on, they started cultivating in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Go, go, go. Many Hall Masters have prepared a banquet and are just waiting for you," Inquisitive Sky Hall Master urged. "Oh." Dongbo Shueying was startled. "Haha. Many of them are attending the banquet with their true bodies. Even 2 Hall Masters who are defending against the destruction devils at the boundary of the void have rushed over." Inquisitive Sky Hall Master chuckled. "Your reputation is really huge." Dongbo Shueying added, "Hurry up and don't let them wait for too long." "Go." Inquisitive Sky Hall Master and Dongbo Shueying immediately turned into streams of light and flew towards the Primal Chaos Palace, located at the center of the huge continent. The Primal Chaos Palace occupied a huge area. Currently, a banquet had been prepared within an elegant palace hall. So, Dongbo Shueying and Inquisitive Sky Hall Master landed outside the palace. They immediately stepped through the door sill and entered. The seats within the palace were placed in groups of 2 or 3 without any order. Some were already holding onto a flask of wine and drinking, and some were chatting with others by the side. "Dongbo is here. Hurry, hurry, hurry. You are the only one left." These Hall Masters noticed that Dongbo Shueying had entered and immediately urged him with a smile. Dongbo Shueying also discovered that there was only one empty seat left. As for Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, his true body had long arrived here, and his incarnations had dissipated like bubbles. This time, Dongbo has greatly increased the reputation of my Great Void Heaven Temple. Unity Realm 7th level. Haha, my Great Void Heaven Temple has finally produced an absolute talent at the Unity Realm 7th level. Celestial Water Hall Master chuckled. "Dongbo, hurry up and take a seat," Ancestor Devil added. "Those Hall Masters who could rush over have sent their true bodies over. The other incarnations have other matters to attend to. The majority of them are still defending against the destruction devils at the boundary of the void and can't leave." Ancestor Devil was relatively emotional too. In his hometown Cosmos, in that era, he had met an absolute talent like Sword Master. Even though he had the heart to fight, he understood the gap between the two of them was huge. Initially, he was already an absolute overlord. It was only then that Sword Master gradually rose. Nevertheless, the Sword Master's cultivation speed was incredibly fast. After he surpassed Ancestor Devil felt the gap between them becoming bigger. Sword Master had even become a cosmos god when he arrived at the Great Void Heaven Temple. He similarly entered closed-door cultivation frequently, and the gap between them should be even more exaggerated. It was fine if it was Sword Master, but now, in the era after his hometown Cosmos, Dongbo Shueying had actually risen. He had reached the 7th level at the Unity Realm. Unquestionably, he would be able to reach the peak of the 8th level after cultivating for a period. That was sufficient to suppress him. Dongbo Shueying sat down. He was startled. Resisting against the destruction devils? The situation is so serious? Ever since the shattering of the primitive ancient sacred world, destruction devils have appeared at the boundary of the void. Over time, the number of destruction devils has increased. My Great Void Heaven Temple is also responsible for a region. Fortunately, Forefather has been guarding it for a long period, and the few of us can rely on Inquisitive Sky Hall Master to help us return frequently. Leading Wing Hall Master flapped his wings before shaking his head slightly. Forefather guarding it? Dongbo Shueying was startled. Right, the Forefather within the Great Void Heaven Temple is merely an incarnation. Haha, the realm of Forefather is extremely high. You can't see through it, right? This gathering was also a gathering where the Hall Masters of the Great Void Heaven Temple and Dongbua Shueying became friends of the same generation. They were clear that not long later, Dongbua Shueying would become the 13th Hall Master of the Great Void Heaven Temple, Lingyan Peak, within the cultivation room of Dongbua Shueying's cavern dwelling. After the gathering ended, Dongbua Shueying returned to the cultivation room. He first lit an incense before sitting cross-legged on the silver silk praying mat to meditate. It is time for me to cultivate properly. Dongbua Shueying felt that it was time for him to meditate and break through to the primal chaos realm. He then closed his eyes. He did not care about the disturbances of the external world. All his thoughts were placed on the Tao of Mirage. He was carefully comprehending all sorts of profound mysteries of the Tao of Mirage. After creating the destruction flower, he had yet to thoroughly comprehend the Tao of Mirage. At this moment, when he started comprehending, many comprehensions appeared in his heart. Dongbua Shueying has already entered closed-door cultivation. By the time he comes out, he should be at the primal chaos realm. At another location within the Great Void Heaven Temple, the hunchbacked old man forefather Tianyu chuckled. My Great Void Heaven Temple will also have another primal chaos realm expert. He specializes in the illusory realm. By then, I can tell him about some matters. We will need him to contribute to the Great Void Heaven Temple. Swordmaster nodded. Like Unity Realm experts, they would usually roam around taking on all sorts of missions to temper themselves. Only after reaching the 5th level Star Pagoda and becoming an Inner Hall Elder would they be allowed to head to the boundary of the Void to fight. In reality, the battles at the boundary of the Void were mainly fought by Forefather Tianyu and the Primal Chaos Realm Giants. The Inner Hall Elders went there firstly for resources, and secondly for tempering themselves. Primal Chaos Realm experts were the main fighting force, and only they were qualified to know more secrets. This Dongbua Shueying is indeed extraordinary. He did not flaunt his achievements at all. Swordmaster praised. Maybe this brat wants to deal against Sacred Master. Forefather Tianyu chuckled. Haha, the ignorant are fearless. This is a good thing. Swordmaster shook his head. I am also preparing to enter closed-door cultivation. Amen. You don't have to care about other matters. I can arrange them properly. Just focus on cultivating. When you are 100% confident, it will be time to act. Forefather Tianyu's eyes were filled with coldness. By then, the other 5 great holy grounds will not hesitate to support my Great Void Heaven Temple. Even if the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World collapses, it will be worth it. At the worst, we can just establish another sacred world. Swordmaster solemnly nodded. I will definitely not disappoint everyone. A new chapter began. There was only one chapter today. Star. Chapter 949. Great Void Heaven Temple, Lingyan Peak, within the cavern-dwelling cultivation room. Dongbua Shueying cultivated by himself. His accumulations were too deep, and before he created the destruction flower, he was already 100% confident of stepping into the primal chaos realm. And now, he created the destruction flower. And just as he concentrated on cultivating, he was gaining new insights. His understanding of the Tao of Mirage was also deepening. Amen. After cultivating for slightly more than a month, Dongbua Shueying was slightly startled. He opened his eyes. Who would have thought that I would be the first ancient cultivator to step into the primal chaos realm? That's right. Even though he was focusing on the Tao of Mirage, and had yet to grasp the complete Tao of Mirage at the primal chaos realm, he naturally comprehended the 7th transformation of the ancient cultivation inheritance Cinnabar. Because the Cinnabar inheritance was originally an illusory realm type, the 7th transformation represented the lowest strength of the Cinnabar inheritance at the primal chaos realm, and he could only reach the 6th floor of Star Tower after cultivating it. The 6th transformation represented the 5th level strength. The 7th transformation represented the lowest 6th level strength at the primal chaos realm. The 8th transformation represented the 7th level strength, and the final 9th transformation of Cinnabar was the 8th level Star Pagoda strength. The 8th level Star Pagoda strength represented a very high height, but to reach the legendary 9th level strength, just the Cinnabar inheritance was insufficient. Black Emperor had cultivated 4 great inheritances at the same time. of which 3 great inheritances had reached grand perfection. Time to break through. Dongbua Shuang shook his head inwardly. The profound mysteries contained in the 7th transformation of Cinnabar were shallow. After all, the evolved Cinnabar inheritance was comparable to it. He did not even need to grasp the complete Tao of Mirage at the primal chaos realm. The laws and profound mysteries system had a high requirement, and he had to grasp it absolutely. But in the ancient cultivation system, it was fine if he could execute it. And now, Dongbua Shuang could clearly execute it. After breaking through, my soul will become stronger, and I can cultivate faster. Dongbua Shuang no longer hesitated. He waved his hand, bringing out some precious resources that he had prepared. He had to rely on resources to step into the primal chaos realm. The 7th transformation of Cinnabar's inheritance was more peaceful, but it was more beneficial to the soul. Naturally, Dongbua Shuang's soul was becoming stronger. But suddenly, rumble, quantitative change leads to qualitative change. Dongbua Shuang's soul immediately underwent a qualitative transformation. This was a transformation that would occur when a Unity Realm expert stepped into the primal chaos realm. In the sacred world, the incarnations of Unity Realm experts could not travel too far away from their true bodies. But primal chaos realm giants could send their incarnations over 1 trillion kilometers away with a thought. Furthermore, their incarnations could even take the initiative to leave and drift in the primal chaos void towards other sacred worlds. When the various hall masters of the Great Void Heaven Temple came to congratulate Dongbua Shuang, many of their true bodies were still far away at the edge of the void, but their incarnations could return. Could a Unity Realm expert do it? A Unity Realm expert couldn't even reach 1/1,000,000th of the distance. Was the gap between their soul strengths really that big? Obviously not. Strictly speaking, it was still a problem of quality. 1/2 kilogram of water and 1/2 kilogram of steel might be the same in terms of quantity. But in terms of strength, under normal circumstances, steel would win. Furthermore, it would be a crushing victory. This was the difference in quality. Naturally, if 1/2 kilogram of water formed a high-pressure water blade, it might be able to cut steel. A heaven-defying genius at the Unity Realm might be able to defeat a Primal Chaos Realm expert. But if a Primal Chaos Realm expert became stronger, they could forge steel into various weapons, and their power would naturally be more terrifying. This feeling is too wonderful. Dongbua Shuang felt his soul sensing the surroundings. With a thought, his senses rapidly covered the entire Great Void, and even penetrated out of the Great Void. Xiao! His senses immediately spread out. This was much faster than any teleportation. In the time it took for a thought, he was able to sense more than half of the sacred world. That's right, more than half of the sacred world. He could even vaguely sense the location of the Primogenitor Island. But this feeling was very vague. It was like a mortal looking down from high up in the sky. Everything was blurry, and he could barely sense the outline of the mountain range and the terrain. Within this region, he could even send an incarnation down with a thought. When he deliberately released his senses, this feeling would be very vague. It was like a mortal looking into the distance, and another mortal would not be able to sense it. Similarly, even Primal Chaos Realm giants could not sense this vague feeling from afar. Only a few might be able to sense it. But cosmos gods were different. The law domain of cosmos gods formed their own cosmos system, and they were extremely sensitive to any senses. Amen. Within the Great Void Heaven Temple, Forefather Tianyu, who was in his own courtyard, felt it. He revealed a look of astonishment before chuckling in the direction of Lingyun Peak. Dongbua, congratulations for stepping into the Primal Chaos Realm. Forefather. Dongbua Shuang immediately replied, Haha, you have just entered closed-door cultivation for a month or so, and you have broken through. That is really fast. When are you planning to open the 13th Palace Hall of my Great Void Heaven Temple? Forefather Tianyu asked. There's no rush. Wait till I consolidate everything. Dongbua Shuang transmitted back. All right. Forefather Tianyu understood that most cultivators would have a period of consolidation after breaking through. During this period, cultivators were not too willing to be disturbed by external matters. Primogenitor Island. The true body of Devil Mountain Primogenitor was a true black mountain peak. Two eyes opened on the mountain wall. Haha, Dongbo Shuang. Congratulations for stepping into the primal chaos realm. Devil Mountain Primogenitor directly transmitted. Dongbo Shui Ying's senses enveloped the entire Primogenitor Island. Even though this feeling was vague, and even Dongbo Shui Ying could barely discern the outer appearance of the Primogenitor Island, Devil Mountain Primogenitor could still easily detect him. Amen. There were many myriad world taverns in the 7-star oceanic sacred world. Within every myriad world tavern there was a master. They were the avatars of myriad world tavern master. They looked towards the direction of the Great Void Heaven Temple, almost at the same time. Another primal chaos realm expert? Myriad World Tavern Master chuckled. Dongbo Shuang? Another formidable young fellow has appeared in the 5 great sacred worlds. Dongbo, congratulations. Properly cultivate, and in the future, my Great Void Heaven Temple will have another 9th level Star Pagoda expert. Primal Chaos Hall Master sensed it too. They were both at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength, but General Hatchet Palace Master specialized in the strongest warrior system and could not sense it at all. As for Primal Chaos Hall Master, his control over his surroundings was many times more acute. That was comparable to Cosmos Gods. The 9th level Star Pagoda strength? That is a little too far for me temporarily. Dongbo Shuang chuckled. The more he understood, the more reverence he felt towards the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. The difficulty of reaching the 9th level Star Pagoda strength was comparable to reaching the 7th level at the Unity Realm. But there were relatively more experts at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. Why? Because many Primal Chaos Realm giants had broken through to the Primal Chaos Realm after reaching the 5th level Star Pagoda strength. Some broke through at the 6th level strength. After all, there were not many who were determined to reach the 7th level from the Unity Realm before breaking through. Even if they wanted to do so, they would discover that it was too difficult to reach the 7th level. In the end, they would give up and break through to the Primal Chaos Realm first. Dongbo Shuang had accumulated enough. In addition to the influence of his teacher's death on his heart realm, it allowed him to create it in one fell swoop. But it was different for Primal Chaos Realm experts. They wanted to step into the Cosmos God realm, and this was the final and hardest barrier in all cultivation realms. Many generations of absolute cultivators were stuck at this stage. They could only temper themselves and chase after the limits. Only then would some 9th level Star Pagoda strength emerge. Even so, the number of 9th level Star Pagoda experts was slightly lesser than the number of Cosmos Gods. After the ancient cultivation Cinnabar inheritance broke through to the Primal Chaos Realm, Dongbo Shui Ying's soul became stronger. Furthermore, there was a qualitative transformation. His cultivation and deduction speed had clearly increased. This time, there were no twists and turns. It was extremely normal. Just 300 years after entering closed-door cultivation, his Tao of Mirage had reached the Primal Chaos Realm. Hong. The Mirage origin in his body finally exploded. It began evolving towards the Primal Chaos Cosmos. This was how the laws and profound mysteries system broke through to the Primal Chaos Realm. Chapter 950. The Primal Chaos Cosmos was the earliest form of the cosmos. At this moment, the myriad existences had yet to be born, and it contained endless possibilities. But to transform the Primal Chaos Cosmos into a true cosmos, the laws were relatively simple and pure. As for the operation of the cosmos, the laws were much more complex. This complexity was not chaos. Instead, it was a perfect whole formed by the myriad existences. That was why many absolute geniuses could reach the 9th level Star Pagoda strength at the Primal Chaos Realm. Yet they could not break through. The difficulty of breaking through was too high. According to historical records, those who broke through to the Cosmos God realm would at least reach the peak of the 8th level strength. Even though there was no Star Pagoda during the primitive ancient Sacred World era, and many experts in the ancient Sacred World and Ancestor Mother World had never attempted the Star Pagoda, one could still compare their strength. One could determine that those who could break through to the Cosmos God realm had deep accumulations, and were at least at the peak of the 8th level. Hong Long Long, a maelstrom of world energy formed in the cultivation room. The maelstrom began collapsing, and a vast amount of world energy poured in from within. This world energy was being absorbed by Dongbua Shui Ying's inner cosmos, causing it to grow continuously. This disturbance was huge, and it attracted many discussions and guesses in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Such a huge disturbance originated from Lingyun Peak? Unless Elder Dongbua had broken through to the primal chaos realm? Someone else said. He has just entered closed-door cultivation for 300 years. How can it be so fast? Elder Dombua's mirage technique absorbs the world energy at an amazing rate. He might be practicing it. Elder Dongbua is at the 7th floor of Star Tower at the Unity Realm. Isn't it normal for him to reach the primal chaos realm after 300 years? Everyone was discussing. Dongbua Shui-ing remained undisturbed during his closed-door cultivation. Forefather Tian Yu and Primal Chaos Hall Master did not say anything to others either. After a long time, only then did the world energy maelstrom dissipate. The primal chaos cosmos in his body was growing completely. Primal chaos cosmos is also known as a miniature cosmos. Dongbua Shui-ing sensed the cosmos formed by the mirage origin in his body. This miniature cosmos was actually relatively vast. Primal chaos energy surged within. Many weak illusory realms were faintly extinguished. This was ultimately a cosmos developed using the Tao of Mirage as its foundation, and was known as the miniature Mirage cosmos. The foundation is already there. I hope that in the future, this miniature universe can truly evolve successfully, nurture all living beings, and transform into a universe of its own. Dongbua Shui-ing thought to himself. Then, he used the laws of the Mirage miniature universe to reconstruct his soul. However, as his ancient cultivation had already broken through before, the improvement to his soul this time was very small. It was only 20 to 30%. That was the case for dual cultivation. The first breakthrough would be the most helpful to the soul. Breakthroughs in other systems would only be icing on the cake, and the help would become weaker and weaker. Dongbua Shui-ing then calmed himself down and continued comprehending the Tao of Mirage. Hua hua hua! He had just broken through. He had too many ideas about the operation of the void miniaturized universe. As the creator of the Flower of Destruction, he had experienced the beauty of perfection. Naturally, he was also pursuing the beauty of the laws of the void miniaturized universe. This was the difference in comprehension. After experiencing it, he was more purposeful in his pursuit. With a clear direction to pursue, the Tao of Mirage became more and more mysterious and complicated. Just over 5 million years in closed-door cultivation, Dongbua Shui-ing had succeeded in cultivating the 8 transformations of the Cinnabar inheritance. This represented that the Cinnabar inheritance had the strength of the 7th floor of Star Tower. This wasn't a difficult task. Even ordinary primal chaos experts could reach the 7th level standard after cultivating for a long period. Ba Yin Palace Master's Imperial Dragon inheritance had reached the 7th level standard. But Ba Yin Palace Master had cultivated for countless years, and it seemed hard for him to improve. As for Dongbua Shui-ing, he had only cultivated for slightly more than 5 million years. This duration was slightly frightening. One could foresee that it wasn't hard for Dongbua Shui-ing to cultivate the 9 transformations of the Cinnabar inheritance. It's too slow. The deeper I go, the harder it is to comprehend the Tao of Mirage. The 9 transformations of the Cinnabar inheritance will most likely require a longer period of accumulation. Dongbua Shui-ing had been wholeheartedly comprehending the Tao of Mirage for 10 million years before he finally understood that to reach the 9 transformations of the Cinnabar inheritance, he would need to spend hundreds of millions of years. He would need to accumulate for a long period of time. But if this spread out, it would make many primal chaos experts envious and jealous. One had to know that Ancestor Devil had cultivated for an extremely long period, just to reach the 8th level strength. He even relied on the 6 great incarnation techniques to do so. Dongbua Shui-ing did not need to temper himself. Just by entering closed-door cultivation, he could vaguely deduce that he would be able to reach the 9 transformations of the Cinnabar inheritance after spending a little more time. Time to cultivate the Tao of Slaughter. Dongbo Shuang felt that his improvement in the Tao of Mirage was too slow. Thus, he began cultivating the Tao of Slaughter, which he specialized in. When he created the Destruction Flower, he fused the Tao of Mirage and Tao of Slaughter together. He had experienced that feeling of perfection in the Tao of Slaughter before, and it was extremely helpful to his cultivation of the Tao of Slaughter. Cultivating for half a month, the Imperial Dragon Inheritance was already at the 7th transformation. After cultivating for 36 million years, he had only reached the 8th transformation in the Imperial Dragon Inheritance. My talent in the Tao of Slaughter is indeed weaker than the Tao of Mirage. Dongbo Shuang silently made his judgment. Time to begin. Currently, both the Cinnabar Inheritance and the Imperial Dragon Inheritance have reached the 8th transformation. It is time for me to try and create the second style of the Destruction Flower. Dongbo Ying's eyes were filled with anticipation. Destruction Flower. Being the creator, Dongbo Shuang understood that the Tao of Slaughter and Tao of Mirage contained within had to reach a balance. This was the prerequisite to creating the Destruction Flower. Hence, in the cultivation room, illusory worlds kept on appearing. However, every time a new Destruction Flower was born, it would disintegrate. Right now, Dongbo Ying's control over the Tao of Mirage and Tao of Slaughter was clearly much more profound than when he was at the Unity Realm. However, the difficulty of creating the Destruction Flower was much lower, because creating a 7th level Destruction Flower at the Unity Realm required absolute perfection. That represented a kind of extreme. However, it was different now. The Tao of Mirage and Tao of Slaughter could still be improved, and they were far from reaching the extreme. If he felt that the Destruction Flower lacked something, Dongbo Shuang could improve the Tao of Slaughter and Tao of Mirage to make up for it. Hence, in just another 38 million years. A black flower bud floated in midair in the cultivation room. Dongbo Shuang revealed a look of joy as he looked at the flower in front of him. This black flower bud had a total of 6 black leaves and 6 petals. Its structure was also much more complicated. Flower blooms. Dongbo Shuang smiled. The black flower bud bloomed. The flower had 6 petals. The 6 black petals and black leaves directly collapsed, turning into 6 black air currents that killed everything within, causing the interior to turn pitch black. Everything was destroyed. This move is much stronger. It is much stronger than the accumulation of 7 destruction flowers in the past. Dongbo Shuang deduced inwardly. It might be at the 8th level Star Pagoda power? This was merely a guess. After all, he could not be sure without challenging the Star Pagoda. The surrounding 3 illusory worlds produced a 6-petal black flower at the same time. A total of 3 flowers. The burden on my heart energy is too huge. I can only unleash 3 flowers at the same time. Dongbo Shuang thought. If I did not cultivate the Cinnabar Inheritance, I should only be able to unleash 1 flower at the same time. The Cinnabar Inheritance allowed his soul to be roughly 3 to 4 times stronger than other primal chaos experts at the same level. Even though the Cinnabar Inheritance seemed to have strengthened his soul significantly when he was at the Unity Realm, that was because his soul was at the Unity Realm at that time. If a primal chaos giant cultivated the Cinnabar Inheritance, his soul would be too strong. Then the first 6 transformations of Cinnabar would not even be able to amplify his soul by a single fold. Hence, when he broke through to the primal chaos realm, the improvement in his soul was not that obvious. But 3 to 4 times was shocking enough. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 190 million years had passed since Dongbo Shuang entered closed-door cultivation. Snow Eagle, I'm out. A message came. Dongbo Shuang, who was currently in closed-door cultivation, opened his eyes in joy. His communication treasure spirit had already received an order that others were not allowed to disturb him unless it was a huge matter. But the message from his wife, Jingqiu, could not be obstructed. Jingqiu is out. Dongbo Shuang was filled with joy. With a thought, the space by his side distorted. Dongbo Shuang took a step and entered it, heading towards his distant hometown cosmos. Master, there is a life form that suddenly left the Great Void Heaven Temple. A deep voice resounded within the courtyard. Forefather Tianyu, who seemed to be asleep, abruptly opened his eyes. He revealed a solemn expression. Is there a special reason why you are here to report? Yes. I'm unable to determine how he left. I can only confirm that there is a life form that left within the region I am monitoring. The deep voice of the treasure spirit continued. Forefather Tian, you had a solemn expression. This treasure spirit was the most secretive protective array treasure spirit of the Great Void Heaven Temple. It was jointly refined by Lord Lo Cheng and Wu Zhu. With this protective array, the Great Void Heaven Temple could be considered impregnable. Even if it was the mysterious ultra-long distance teleportation, this protective array could still monitor all life forms within the array, even though it could not obstruct such teleportation. If there was an external life form, it would naturally be discovered. Who? Forefather Tianyu asked. If Inquisitive Sky Hall Master were to help someone teleport through an ultra-long distance, the treasure spirit would not report it. Dongbo Shuiying. The treasure spirit answered. Dongbo Shuiying? Forefather Tianyu was startled. He then asked, did he leave by himself, or did other experts bring him away? He left by himself. The treasure spirit answered. Forefather Tianyu was stunned. Left by himself? Ultra-long distance teleportation was extremely mysterious. Even the Void Walker lineage that specialized in controlling the void had to reach the Cosmos God realm. The lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master could do it too, but only a few of them could. Other than that, the most commonly seen method was to rely on the ancient cultivation. There were all sorts of talents in the ancient cultivation, and there were those who specialized in ultra-long distance teleportation. He left by himself? He could teleport through an ultra-long distance? Forefather Tianyu did not dare believe it. Ultra-long distance teleportation was extremely important. The majority of cosmos gods could not do it. Hence, the various holy grounds would usually think of ways to have someone who specialized in ultra-long distance teleportation within their organization. Even if they did not, they would invite primal chaos giants who specialized in this area to join their organization. For instance, the Great Void Heaven Temple had Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, who specialized in this area previously. With Inquisitive Sky Hall Master, many experts in the Great Void Heaven Temple could easily travel to different places. They could even reach the boundary of the void rapidly. There was no Inquisitive Sky Hall Master? The entire Great Void Heaven Temple would be dumbfounded. Dongbo Shuiying's ancient cultivation lineage isn't the Cinnabar inheritance or the Imperial Dragon inheritance. Unless he has multiple talents. And he even has the void talent? Amen. He is a void walker and might have a void-related talent. Forefather Tianyu could not help but grin. Chapter 951. Hometown Cosmos. Black Fog Sea. Monarch Dongbo Residence. South space distorted in midair. And Shuiying walked out from within. Sweeping his gaze across, he was able to see the deep blue-robed girl standing by the lake. With his strength, he could easily discern that his wife had become a true god ruler. This was within his expectations. After all, he had provided her with scriptures, and had even spent the wealth of some weaker primal chaos existences to buy cultivation materials. She was merely a true god ruler. If news of this were to spread, others would feel that the improvement was too little. Jingqiu sensed the disturbance. She turned and revealed a look of joy. Snow Eagle. Jingqiu. Dongbo Shuiying walked over with a smile. Not bad. You have reached the ruler realm. I have been in a cultivation state that is even better than enlightenment. I have cultivated for a total of 200 million years. Even I feel that becoming a ruler isn't much. Jingqiu could not help but ask. Oh right, Snow Eagle, can you tell me what treasure is so mystical? At this moment, Jingqiu did not notice that her husband had a huge increase in strength. After all, the gap between them was too huge. When Dongbo Shuiying retracted his aura, Jingqiu could not sense it. It's the Scarlet Cloud Pomegranate Core. Dongbo Shuiying did not hide anything this time. Instead, he explained in detail. He even told her about the palace hall that was specially refined for cultivation. Jingqiu's eyes widened. She was speechless. This can buy an existence comparable to that black divine hound. Wild black dog, Jingqiu knew about the power it displayed in the past. She had even heard from Dongbua Shuiying that it was a puppet at the primal chaos realm that costs more than creating a cosmos. It is at the lowest primal chaos realm. It is slightly stronger with the support of the starting ground array, Dongbua Shuiying said. Primal chaos realm? Jingqiu was still shocked. She guessed that the treasure was very mystical, but the price was so huge that it shocked her. She could not help but say, Snow Eagle is so precious. It must not be easy for you to obtain it at the Unity realm. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. I am already in the primal chaos realm. Jingqiu looked at her husband in surprise. Haha. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. Jingqiu didn't say anything and just hugged her husband. She understood in her heart that even though her husband had reached the primal chaos realm, he was merely at the Unity realm back then. It was extremely dangerous for him to obtain a treasure that ordinary primal chaos realm experts could only purchase after selling all their treasures. Everything is worth it. Dongbua Shuiying, on the other hand, felt a sense of calm and warmth in his heart. Back when he had left his home cosmos by himself, he had only been a true god and had been drifting through the primal chaos void. Although he had experienced many dangers, his luck had been good. After Jingqiu came out of seclusion, he had also broken through to the primal chaos realm. Dongbua Shuiying also understood that the Great Void Heaven Temple had already discovered him using an ultra-long distance teleportation, but this was something he took the initiative to reveal. Once he reached the primal chaos realm, there was no longer a need to hide it. In the 5 great sacred worlds of the primal chaos void, there were quite a few primal chaos realm giants who specialized in ultra-long distance teleportation. Teacher and primal master, the two of you are at the void god level. It isn't much help for you to cultivate within the cosmos just by relying on those books I wrote. Are you planning to go to the Great Void Heaven Temple? Dongbua Shuiying asked Bloodblade and Primal Master. He had not done it previously. It was for the sake of hiding his ultra-long distance teleportation. Of course. The eyes of Bloodblade lit up. Alright. Primal Master was filled with anticipation too. The two of them were filled with desire towards the legendary holy ground of the laws and profound mysteries lineage, the Great Void Heaven Temple. Go! Dongbua Shuiying left behind an incarnation in his hometown before his true body brought Bloodblade and Primal Master to the Great Void Heaven Temple. The Great Void Heaven Temple placed great importance on Bloodblade and Primal Master too, because in this cosmos, Swordmaster who was born previously was too heaven-defying, and Dongbua Shuiying was quite dazzling. That was why they placed great importance on both Bloodblade and Primal Master. The moment Bloodblade and Primal Master arrived, they were completely immersed in reading. Many books were being read by them, and there were even many books related to the Hex cultivation lineage. Hometown Cosmos. In the study room, the black-robed Dongbua Shuiying sat in front of the study table. He began writing down many books. They were all books directed towards the Void God realm. Given his realm, writing these foundational books was quite easy for him. It's just that he only specialized in those few aspects. That was why the books he wrote were relatively incomplete. Snow Eagle. Jingqiu walked in. Jingqiu. Dongbua Shuiying put down the pen in his hand. Previously, you announced publicly that those who reached the Void God level would be sent to the Great Void Heaven Temple. Unless you Qingyao, and those other disciples of yours are only sent over after they reached the Void God level? Jingqiu asked. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. Amen. Actually, in the Primal Chaos Void and 5 Great Sacred Worlds, even the holy grounds aren't as safe as you think. He could not help but think about his teacher Guqi. That was a cosmos god, and he was even protected by Wu Zhu. Sacred Master did not care about the price and killed his teacher. According to what he knew, Sacred Master was doing this just to vent his anger. Clearly, he was losing his patience and might start another war at any time. The moment a war began, it was normal for sacred worlds to shatter and cosmos gods to fall. Hence, Dongbua Shuiying was not in a rush to send the juniors over. Furthermore, there are fewer books in my hometown cosmos, and there are fewer tempering. Those who could compete with them at the same level are few too. Dongbua Shuiying chuckled. Even though the environment for cultivation is much worse than the holy grounds, this is an opportunity for them to temper themselves. Tempering oneself in a bad environment. Tempering oneself for a long time would allow one to have a brighter future. Naturally, there was another possibility. Tempering oneself for too long would cause one to lose the drive to forge ahead. Many transcendental true gods in my hometown cosmos were like that. They had lost their confidence. Even though they knew about the Great Void Heaven Temple, it was hard for them to change their mentality. But Dongbo Shuiying would always guide his children and disciples, letting them understand that the environment within the Great Void Heaven Temple was much better, allowing them to maintain their fighting spirit. Let them properly cultivate in my hometown cosmos. When this epic is about to end, I'll send them all out. Dongbo Shuiying said. I'll listen to you. Jingqiu naturally agreed, after knowing of Dongbo Shuiying's plan. Currently, being at the primal chaos realm, an incarnation of black-robed Dongbo Shuiying could naturally stay in his hometown cosmos, while his true body would cultivate within the Great Void Heaven Temple. He would occasionally come out to meet his teacher Bloodblade and Primal Master. He would also guide his disciple Xinghua Sun Yi. After Bloodblade arrived at the Great Void Heaven Temple, he had flipped through a vast amount of books in the Myriad Elephant Palace Hall. 300 million years later, he had stepped into the Unity Realm, reaching the third-level Star Pagoda strength. Nonetheless, after 10 billion years, Bloodblade remained at the peak of the fourth-level Star Pagoda strength. He was still lacking by a strand to reach the fifth-level strength. It was mainly because he cultivated in the Hex cultivation lineage. Furthermore, his talent in the Hex cultivation lineage was higher than in the Laws and Profound Mysteries lineage. The moment 10 billion years was up, he could no longer stay within the Great Void Heaven Temple. He had to leave the Great Void Heaven Temple to become an Outer Hall Elder. As for Primal Master, he was still at the Origin Birth Realm. Even though Pang Yi, Monarch Green, and Purgatory Monarch had all stepped into the Void God realm, and were sent over by Dongbo Shuiying, all of them were temporarily stuck at the Origin Birth realm. It was hard to break through in the Laws and Profound Mysteries lineage. Bloodblade stood in midair. He looked at the distant Great Void Heaven Temple, and also at the cavern dwelling of Dongbo Shuiying. He did not bid farewell to his teacher. Being a teacher, he had his pride. Clearly, Bloodblade was not resigned to not stepping into the fifth-level Star Pagoda within 10 billion years. I'll be back. Bloodblade turned around and flew back to the Primal Chaos Temple. He would be stationed in a Primal Chaos City. Chapter 952. Dongbo Shuiying stood within the courtyard of his cavern dwelling. He was drinking by himself. Even though he did not send his teacher off, he could sense that his teacher had gone to the Primal Chaos God Palace. It is too difficult to break through in the Laws and Profound Mysteries lineage, Dongbo Shuiying thought. The moment one reached the Unity Realm in the Laws and Profound Mysteries lineage, most would start at the third-level Star Pagoda level. Even becoming a Void God was extremely difficult. Many golden-robed disciples were stuck at the bottleneck for a long time. Hence Pang Yi Monarch Green and Purgatory Monarch had all become Void Gods. Firstly, they had cultivated for a long period, and secondly, their comprehension abilities were relatively high. But it was not easy for them to reach the Unity Realm. In the current era of his hometown cosmos, other than Dongbo Shuiying, only Bloodblade had stepped into the Unity Realm. Teacher seems to specialize more in the Hex cultivation. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. He then stood up and entered the meditation room to continue cultivating. Their hometown cosmos. There were two dazzling eras in history. One was the era of Sword Master, and the other was his era. They were both relatively dazzling, but comparatively speaking his era was slightly weaker. He was much weaker than Sword Master, and his teacher Bloodblade was much weaker than Ancestor Devil. Ancestor Devil had reached the Unity Realm in his hometown cosmos. After reaching the Great Void Heaven Temple, he swept across all Unity Realm experts before breaking through to the Primal Chaos Realm. Compared to him, his teacher Bloodblade was indeed weaker than Ancestor Devil in terms of comprehension ability. As for himself, he could still find a reason. He cultivated for a short period, But thinking about how Sword Master could cultivate to the primal chaos realm in his hometown cosmos, and did not face any setbacks after reaching the Great Void Heaven Temple, before becoming a cosmos god. Even a Unity Realm 7th level absolute genius would feel the gap when looking at Sword Master. This time, even though Shuang would occasionally come out from his closed-door cultivation, and even went to the Myriad Elephant Palace Hall to read through the books he had cultivated for the longest period in history, 30 billion years or so. Within the meditation room, the white-robed Dongbua Shuang sat cross-legged on the ground. Not a speck of dust could be seen on his body. Gradually, his body became more and more translucent, until it finally disappeared completely. After a while, the translucent figure of Dongbua Shuang appeared on top of the silver cushion again. It gradually became more and more solid, until it returned to normal. Emperor Juyun's four-painting technique is too difficult. Dongbua Shuang opened his eyes, frowned and shook his head. Emperor Juyun had left behind 4 paintings. The first 3 were complete, while the 4th was incomplete. The first painting allowed him to grasp the essence of the structure of the void, and even peek into a higher-level world, allowing him to comprehend ultra-long-distance teleportation. Hence, in his long years of cultivation, he would naturally focus on cultivating the Walker's hidden secret. The Walker's hidden secret was created by the Void Primogenitor. It used the power of the chaotic void to evolve his body. However, it was a different route to the same end. Emperor Juyun was the strongest expert in the void during the primitive ancient Saint World era. Even though his path was slightly different from the Void Primogenitor, the improvement of the Walker's hidden secret had indeed allowed Dongbua Shuang to better understand that mysterious four-painting absolute art. Cultivating the 4 paintings was similarly helpful to comprehending the Walker's hidden secret. And now, he had pushed the Walker's hidden secret to the 46th level, but the 41st level to the 50th level represented the primal chaos realm. The higher levels were relatively easier, and the harder it was to advance. The second and third paintings are too difficult. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Perhaps I have to reach the Cosmos God realm in the Voidwalker lineage before I can have a chance of reaching large success. The second painting pursued the voidification of the body. As the Voidwalker became stronger, his body would become more proficient in voidification, allowing him to dissipate much of the enemy's attack. According to the pursuit of the Voidwalker lineage, the pinnacle of voidification was when one's body and the primal chaos void essence became one. They would become a part of the primal chaos void. It wasn't referring to the ordinary void. Instead, the essence of the entire primal chaos void was that black curtain-like existence. When experts fought, they would always be within the primal chaos void. They did not transcend beyond the primal chaos void and touch upon the higher dimensional world. Hence, once the voidification technique became one with the primal chaos void essence, the enemy could not kill him at all. But my teacher was still killed by the Sacred Master. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. The attack of the Sacred Master could similarly tear apart the essence of the primal chaos void essence. Being the strongest expert, the Sacred Master's strength was far beyond what Shuang could estimate. He only knew that the creator of the second and third paintings, Emperor Juyun, had been heavily injured by the Sacred Master and eventually fell. The third painting, it pursued the control of the void. The Voidwalkers specialized in controlling the void too. Reaching the Cosmos God realm, they could even teleport through an ultra-long distance. But this third painting did not pursue this. Instead, it pursued the pinnacle of the microscopic realm. It sought to control the essence of the primal chaos void, the black fog spherical body formed from the black curtain. Shuang wanted to split it apart, so that it would no longer obstruct him, allowing him a deeper understanding of the higher dimensional world. These 2 paintings represent 2 different directions: voidification to the pinnacle, and control of the void to the pinnacle. Dongbua Shuang was a voidwalker at the primal chaos realm. He had cultivated these 2 paintings to the intermediate stage. But to reach large success, he knew that only Cosmos gods could do so. Difficult. As for the 4th painting, Emperor Juyun had yet to create it. Just the incomplete painting was something Ying could not understand at all. If Ying merely cultivated to the 46th level of the Walker's hidden secret, he would not be able to match him in the aspects of voidification and void control. This incomplete absolute art of Emperor Juyin was indeed amazing. Hong Long Long, the stone door opened. Donghua Ying walked out of the cultivation room. At the same time, he transmitted to Forefather Tianyu. Forefather, we can open the 13th palace hall now. Good. Forefather Tianyu laughed. Donghua Ying spent 30 billion years or so to consolidate his foundation after breaking through to the primal chaos realm. This was considered short among the many primal chaos realm experts. Dang dang dang, the bell of the Great Void Palace rang. It reverberated across the entire Great Void holy ground. Many disciples could guess that this should be the celebration of Elder Donghua breaking through to the primal chaos realm. The celebration of breaking through to the primal chaos realm was held internally. If he were to become a cosmos god, it would be held on a grand scale. Various holy grounds would send experts over to congratulate him. Very soon the news spread. The Great Void Heaven Temple would establish the 13th Palace Hall, the Mirage Palace. The Palace Master would be Donghua Ying. Furthermore, the Great Void Heaven Temple would construct the 13th Primal Chaos City, the Mirage City. Furthermore, they would construct many cities that were connected to other Primal Chaos cities. This was a huge project. The moment it was completed, Donghua Ying would arrange for an incarnation of his to guard the Mirage City. Usually, he would fall into a deep sleep. During his deep sleep, he would not consume any mental energy. Brother Donghua, we will be depending on you. We are looking forward to it. Brother Donghua has cultivated for several billion years after reaching the primal chaos realm. I wonder how strong Brother Donghua will be. Right. Let us see how amazing a Unity Realm 7th level expert is. My Great Void Heaven Temple has never produced a Unity Realm 7th level expert before you. I've only heard about it from Jade Light Sacred Territory and Blade Emperor City. The majority of the Hall Masters arced through the sky with their incarnations, and Donghua Ying towards the Star Pagoda. The true bodies of these Hall Masters remained at the boundary of the void, and did not dare to leave. Rest assured, I will naturally do my best, Donghua Ying said. Heart Imitation Religious Master has entered closed-door cultivation for 130 billion years after reaching the Primal Chaos Realm, before reaching the peak of the 8th level. Great Emperor Jin Yi of Jade Light Sacred Territory is even more dazzling. Just 8 billion years or so, he has reached the peak of the 8th level. Currently, the two of them are at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. Right, don't let them win against you, the Hall Masters by the side said. Alright everyone, I'll be entering first. Donghua Ying was still quite a distance away. He soon turned into a stream of light and flew into the entrance of the Star Pagoda. Chapter 953. The Cold Wind Blew. Forefather Tianyu squinted his eyes as he slowly tasted his wine. He even revealed an expression of enjoyment. This old man just wants to drink a few more cups of wine and live a leisurely life. I just want to teach more juniors. But even so, it isn't enough to satisfy me. The Sacred Master controls the entire primal chaos void and wants me to become his puppet? Absolutely loyal to him? What a madman. Those destruction devils are also being born continuously, and the situation is getting worse. AI, this is a headache. What a headache. Wu Zhu, Jia Zhu Blade Emperor, and those who are plotting in the dark, all of you should work hard and get rid of the Sacred Master. Wouldn't everyone be free then? Forefather Tianyu shook his head. My laws and profound mysteries lineage has produced a sword master. He is much stronger than me. Forefather Tianyu revealed a rueful look. That Donghua Ying specializes in ultra-long distance teleportation too. He can be used to put out fires and be of great help. They were both experts at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. Those who could teleport through ultra-long distance would be much more useful. The moment they encountered danger, they could escape. And if they did not specialize in it, and had to ask others for help, it would take a long time. This brat has started challenging the Star Pagoda. Forefather Tianyu chuckled. He enjoyed his wine, while watching the scene that appeared in front of him. It was the scene of Dongbo Shueing entering the 8th level Star Pagoda. I hope he can break through to the 9th level Star Pagoda strength in one fell swoop. Forefather Tianyu muttered. Following that he chuckled. It was clear that even if Dongbo Shueing was very talented, and was at the Unity Realm 7th level, it was still possible for him to reach the 9th level in the future. But most would require a long period of accumulation or tempering. Maybe there might be a miracle? Forefather Tianyu thought. Sword Master had a miracle of becoming a cosmos god, even after entering closed-door cultivation. Forefather Tian, you could accept any miracle. And in the scene before him, Dongbo Shueing had already started his battle. 8th level space of Star Pagoda. Just like that Star Pagoda in the Blade Emperor City, it was an enormous battle platform. Many veined patterns on the surface of the battle platform were emitting golden light. The golden light rapidly condensed into a golden armored destruction devil. This was a destruction devil with a total of 100 metallic braids. Every single metallic braid was distorting the surrounding void. A primal chaos expert from the Great Void Heaven Temple? He broke through recently? I've never seen you before? This golden armored destruction devil had a total of 6 eyes, with 2 eyes forming a row. The 3 rows of eyes were constantly emitting golden light. Suddenly, an enormous fiery red bird appeared behind Shueing. It spread its enormous wings, causing red streams of air to spread out and envelop the entire battle platform. At that moment, this golden armored destruction devil began to sway. At times he would shake his head violently, and at other times he would sink into oblivion. The rumors aren't false. Destruction devils are relatively weaker in terms of resisting against the illusory realm as compared to ordinary cultivators. My Cinnabar inheritance has reached the pinnacle of 9 transformations, but it is only equivalent to the 8th level Star Pagoda strength. To ordinary 8th level Star Pagoda experts, I can only influence them, and not decide their fate. Dongbo Shueing thought. But the destruction devil in front of him was clearly greatly affected. He could only unleash 10% to 20% of his original strength. Damn. The golden armored destruction devil shook his head time and time again. He wanted to maintain his consciousness. But the Cinnabar inheritance was different from the Tao of Mirage. Fusing with that red aura, its power was greater. Furthermore, it could continue enveloping the illusory realm over and over again. Let's give it a try. With a thought, a black flower bud was born from the illusory realm and descended into reality. It enveloped the golden armored destruction devil. It was the 6-petal destruction flower. The golden armored destruction devil felt himself being enveloped by the enormous black flower bud. As he was barely awake, he punched out with his fist. Hong long. It struck on the black flower bud, causing the flower bud to similarly blossom and begin its destruction. Hong long. The destructive power caused many wounds to appear on the surface of the golden armored destruction devil's body. I can injure him. Dongbo Shueing sneered. But to win, I'll have to unleash this 6-petal destruction flower many times. It's better not to waste time. 3 flowers. Dongbo Shueing tried. The 3 6-petal realm destruction flowers seriously injured this golden armored destruction devil. The golden armor on his body was almost shattered, revealing savage and ugly wounds. But more than 100 metallic braids were frantically fusing into his body, allowing him to withstand the attacks. Furthermore, the surface of his body was flowing with golden light, rapidly recovering. 6 flowers. 6 6-petal realm destruction flowers stacked on top of each other. The bigger flower wrapped around the smaller flower, and when they finally erupted, the body of the golden armored destruction devil was blasted until only a few metallic braids were left entangled around his bones. But following that, the golden light surged and recovered. Dongbo Shueing was not in a rush. Instead, he allowed the golden armored destruction devil to continue recovering until he was completely recovered. 9 flowers. A total of 9 6-petal realm destruction flowers stacked on top of each other. Its power was truly horrifying. If one said that a single flower could injure the golden armored destruction devil, then 9 flowers was something this golden armored destruction devil could not withstand. Accompanied by the disturbance of destruction, those tough metallic braids were completely shattered. This time, countless golden light tunneled beneath the battle platform. Clearly he had won. 9 flowers should be enough to win with a single strike? Dongbo Shuang nodded slightly. Forefather Tian Yu watched the battle scene. He nodded slightly and revealed a grin. This flower technique created by Dongbua has indeed extended to a stronger technique. With 9 flowers fused together, it is barely at the peak of the 8th level standard. Now let's see what happens at the 9th level. Dongbua Shuang looked up at the enormous maelstrom that appeared in the sky. He immediately turned into a stream of light and rushed into the sky. He tunneled into that enormous maelstrom and arrived at the final level of the Star Pagoda. The 9th level. There was a god palace ahead. Within the god palace, there was a throne with a sculpture seated on it. There were a total of 8 sculptures standing by the 2 sides. All of them looked like destruction devils. However, it was just a grayish sculpture without any aura. The sculpture on the throne looked outside through the door of the god palace. With a glance, he saw Dongbua Shuang who stood on the public square. Kill! An unseen voice reverberated across the entire 9th level. It seemed to come from the sculpture, yet it seemed to come from the world. Hua 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 hua. Many vein patterns on the ground of the public square began lighting up with golden light. Large amounts of golden light converged at different locations, forming a golden armored destruction devil at every location. A total of 9 golden armored destruction devils were born. They had different appearances. Some were tall, some were thin, some were gentle, and some were as though their bodies were hidden in the shadows. But their auras were generally stronger than that golden armored destruction devil he met at the 8th level. As long as I kill all of them, it would represent that I have reached the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. Dongbua Shuang was clear how hard it was to deal with the opponents in front of him. If he could kill all of them, it would represent that his combat power had reached the Cosmos God level. Even though he would be weaker than any other Cosmos God. But it was sufficient for him to reach that level. I have to do my best. Dongbua Shuang's eyes were blazing. Previously, he could casually deal with the 8th level destruction devil. But this level did not allow him to be careless. There is actually someone who dares to challenge the 9th level. The Great Void Heaven Temple has another formidable brat. Do it. Kill him. The 9 golden armored destruction devils moved at the same time. Xiao. Dongbua Shuang moved too. The moment he moved, he disappeared from the battle platform. He was displaying his current terrifying strength in the void. Chapter 954. Fix. One of the thin and small destruction devils emitted a dim light from his single eye that illuminated the entire battle platform. The entire space of the battle platform was like a swamp, and one could even see Dongbua Shuang's blurred figure with the naked eye. But in this stagnant space that was like a swamp, Dongbua Shuang could still teleport several tens of thousands of kilometers away with a flash. He easily moved around the 9 destruction devils and sought for an opportunity. His control of space is formidable. We can't teleport, yet he can. These 9 destruction devils looked at each other. They knew that things were amiss. One party could teleport. The other party could not teleport at all. Hence, they could not take the initiative to chase after the other party. This was normal too. Dongbua Shuang was ultimately a void walker, at the 46th level of Walker's hidden secret. Furthermore, he had cultivated the 4 diagrams absolute art of Emperor Juyun. Emperor Juyun was the strongest expert in the void during the primitive ancient sacred world era. He specialized in using and controlling the void. Void Primogenitor was the strongest expert in the void during the primal chaos void era. He specialized in using the primal chaos void energy to reconstruct his body. This represented 2 directions. Dongbua Shuang cultivated both, allowing his control of the void to be even more amazing. Extinguish. Dongbua Shuang acted. He went all out the moment he acted. Hua hua hua. Many beautiful black flower buds appeared. This 9th level space of Star Pagoda had even formed a terrifying world energy maelstrom. The maelstrom collapsed and endless world energy surged in. A total of 19 6-petal realm black flower buds appeared. One flower wrapped around the other, and the innermost one was wrapped around that thin and small destruction devil, who was trying to control the void. 19 flowers. That was Dongbo Shui Ying's limit. That time when he was at the 8th transformation realm in Cinnabar's inheritance, and the 8th transformation realm in Imperial Dragon's inheritance, he had just created a 6-petal realm destruction flower. At that time, he could only unleash 3 flowers at once. In the following 30 billion years, his talent in the Tao of Mirage had indeed become higher. Just by relying on the accumulation of bitter cultivation, he reached the 9th transformation realm in Cinnabar's inheritance. As for the Imperial Dragon inheritance, it was slightly weaker. Although the Tao of Slaughter had improved greatly, the Imperial Dragon 9 revolutions had not reached the large success stage. Even if it was not fully mastered, it was not enough for Dongbo Shuiying to create a higher-level destruction flower. Actually, Dongbo Shuiying understood that even if he managed to master the Imperial Dragon's 9 revolutions, he would have to fuse 2 Daos together to create a more perfect third style of the destruction flower. That would be the pursuit of absolute perfection, and the difficulty of creating it would be extremely high. What about now? Firstly, because Cinnabar's inheritances were all at the 9 changes realm, and Imperial Dragon's inheritance was also at the peak of the 8 changes realm, he had slightly modified the 6-petal realm flower of destruction, making it more concise. Moreover, those with higher realms would need less mental energy to use it. He only needed about a third of the effort he needed to create the 6-petal destruction flower. Secondly, Cinnabar had succeeded in cultivating the 9 changes, allowing Dongbo Shuiying's soul to be twice as strong as it was at the 8 changes realm. These 2 reasons allowed Dongbo Shuiying to unleash a total of 19 6-petal realm destruction flowers at his limit. This was also one of the reasons why he attempted to reach the 9th level. After all, offense was very important. If his offense was not strong enough, he could not even break through the most basic defense of the destruction devils. That would be a joke. The 19 6-petal realm destruction flowers bloomed at the same time. That thin and small destruction devil could not dodge at all. He could only endure it. But his energy was linked with the other 8 destruction devils like one entity. Their defenses were one entity too. This was the frightening aspect of the destruction devils. Defense as one entity. If one could not break through their defenses, one could not injure them. The faint golden light covering the body of that thin and small destruction devil could endure for a moment under the destructive power of the 19 destruction flowers before collapsing. The armor on the body of that destruction devil was also torn apart. The muscles and bones on his body were torn too, though they were rapidly recovering under the circulation of the golden light. He can actually break through the defenses without engaging in close combat. The 9 destruction devils immediately understood. This primal chaos giant could rely on teleportation to exhaust them to death. Kill. The 9 destruction devils began unleashing their most berserk moves. Hong. The 9 destruction devils exploded one after another. They turned into countless golden light that shot out in all directions. Almost instantaneously, the entire battle platform was enveloped by a dense golden light. Dongbo Shuiying was naturally enveloped within. Large amounts of golden light were rapidly entangling with Dongbo Shuiying. This damnable destructive force. Black scales immediately appeared on the surface of Dongbo Shuiying's body. He had completely circulated the Imperial Dragon inheritance. His body had also started voidifying, doing his best to weaken the corrosive power of this destructive force. Die for me. Die. Dongbo Shuiying frantically unleashed the 19 destruction flowers again and again. Hong. Every time he attacked, the dense golden light covering the entire battle platform would be slightly depleted. Not bad. Forefather Tian Yu's eyes lit up as he watched. The golden armored destruction devils dissipated into golden light. This was usually their final move. Because this golden light was their foundation, they relied on the golden light to recover from injuries. And the moment their bodies completely disintegrated into golden light, they would no longer have any defenses. The golden light could be used to escape in all directions. They could escape in different directions, and all of them had spirituality. For instance, they could teleport. Hence, if not for the sealed environment of the Star Pagoda, it would not be so easy to kill the destruction devils. The moment they felt something was amiss, they would disintegrate their bodies and escape in different directions. The cultivators could not disperse at all. As for the other method, it was used to risk their lives. The destructive force contained within the destruction devils could corrode all ordinary material in the primal chaos void. Even the strongest expert could be corroded and killed if they had sufficient destructive force. Hence, the destruction devils had turned into the most primal source of golden destructive force to corrode. Clearly, they had no other choice but to disregard any defenses and use this desperate move. This corrosive force. Even though Dongbua Shui Ying's body was powerful, only his scaled armor had reached the level of an upper-graded void god weapon. His fleshy body was comparatively weaker. Fortunately, his voidification ability had reached an extremely high level. Furthermore, he was hiding in the illusory world, allowing him to persist for a longer period. If it were someone like Ba Yin Palace Master, who could only rely on his body to resist, he would not be able to hold on for long. Kill, kill, kill. Dongbua Shuang frantically unleashed the destruction flower time after time. The dense golden light on the battle platform was gradually being weakened. This was a battle of attrition. The destruction devils did not have any defenses. They allowed Dongbua Shuang to consume their fundamental destructive force. But at the same time, the destructive force was also corroding Dongbua Shuang. Just 10 breaths later, Dongbua Shuang's expression changed. I can't hold on any longer. Dongbua Shuang no longer dared to take the risk. Give up. Very soon, he was teleported out by the treasure spirit of the Star Pagoda, and the remnant golden light rapidly converged, turning into 6 golden armored destruction devils. But their auras were weak. It seemed like there were 6 of them, but in reality, all of them were heavily injured, and the other 3 had lost their lives. Their overall destructive force had been consumed by Dongbua Shuang by more than 70%. Currently, if he could persist for another 7 to 8 breaths of time, he would be able to win. It's a pity that more and more destructive force was corroding into his body, and it would be harder for him to persist. I still lost. Dongbua Shuang was gradually expelling the destructive force in his body with the help of the treasure spirit of the Star Pagoda. Only after a long time did he completely expel it. His expression was slightly pale. I forced them to give up their bodies and use their origin energy to fight against me, but I actually couldn't win. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. After leaving the Star Pagoda, outside was the group of hall masters from the Great Void Heaven Temple. Dongbua, you are out. How is it? How is it? All of them looked at Dongbua Shuang. He can be considered at the peak of the 8th level. The 9th level is too difficult. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Peak of the 8th level? Amazing. He has only just broken through to the primal chaos realm. Amazing. The hall masters present felt that it was amazing, but it was normal since he had reached the 7th level before reaching the primal chaos realm. Dongbua Shuang's expression moved. He immediately said, Forefather is summoning me over. I'll be making a move first. Go, go. You won't be so free in the future. The hall masters were teasing him. Dongbua Shuang arrived at the residence of Forefather Tianyu. Within the courtyard, he saw Forefather Tianyu, who was holding onto a cup of wine leisurely. Forefather. Dongbua Shuang immediately greeted. Not bad, not bad. I thought it would take you a long time to reach the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. But now, it seems that after cultivating and tempering yourself, you will have a chance of reaching the 9th level. Forefather Tianyu praised. Dongbua Shuang understood the gap between him and the 9th level. To reach the 9th level, he had to become stronger in offense. If his offense was stronger, he would naturally be able to consume all the destructive energy in a shorter period. But like Xinghua Emperor and Primal Chaos Hall Master, they were extremely strong in close combat. They could kill the destruction devils and get through the 9th level. This offensive power was much stronger than his 19 destruction flowers, and his offense could not be greatly improved within a short period unless he created the 3rd style of the destruction flower. As for himself, the only way he had hope was to strengthen his defense If he could reach the 9th transformation large success stage in the Imperial Dragon Inheritance, the scales on his body would be comparable to top-grade Void God weapons. By then his body would be amazing. Coupled with his more profound voidification and illusory world, his defenses would allow him to look down on those at the primal chaos realm. With a stronger defense, he would be able to resist and exhaust those destruction devils to death. Even though this path is relatively easier, I am considered weak amongst those at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength. Only those like the Black Emperor are considered strong, Dongbo Shuang thought. The Black Emperor was ferocious. All his techniques had reached an ultra-strong level, and even Cosmos gods could do nothing to him. Currently, you still have to temper yourself. Forefather Tianyu chuckled. It is more suitable for you to go to the boundary of the void and engage in countless battles to temper yourself. Once you reach the 9th level strength, I'll have a huge matter to hand over to you. You are the most suitable candidate. By then, the 6 great holy grounds will give you a huge gift. Oh, Dongbo Shuang felt puzzled. A huge matter? Chapter 955. Yes, this is a huge matter. Forefather Tianyu nodded. Ever since the primitive ancient sacred world shattered, the primal chaos void expanded continuously. Thus, destruction devils were born at the boundary of the void. Over the long years, the number of destruction devils increased, and the pressure of resisting against them increased. They were born for the sake of destruction. Perhaps this vast primal chaos void wants to destroy us too, allowing a new world to be born. We might be strong, but before the supreme law, we are just slightly stronger ants. Dongbo Shuang was startled. He recalled how he had once peeked into a higher dimension world through the black fog spherical hole. Even though the number of destruction devils increased, we always thought that our defenses were good and watertight. Forefather Tianyu solemnly said. But not long after I wandered around and created many cosmoses, roughly equivalent to the 5th epoch of your hometown cosmos, we discovered that there are destruction devils hiding within the 5 great sacred worlds. What? Dongbo Shuang was startled. The destruction devils have entered the 5 great sacred worlds? Aren't they always intercepted outside? Even Shuang himself knew that the destruction devils were perfectly defended outside, and not a single one had escaped from the net. We also thought that our defenses are good, but the truth is right in front of us, and it is indisputable that there are indeed destruction devils hiding within. Forefather Tianyu shook his head. We have carefully recalled and guessed that the destruction devils had previously slaughtered their way to the final spatial barrier. We thought that we had perfectly defended against them, but there must have been a fish that slipped through the net and passed through the final spatial barrier. Currently, we have discovered more than 100 traces of destruction devils. They are all golden armored destruction devils, and we can deduce that there are at least 15 different golden armored destruction devils. They are all cunning and cautious, and have the ability to change their aura. They usually disguise as ordinary cultivators, and would only reveal themselves during massacres. Thus, we have yet to capture a single one of them. They were born for the sake of destruction. Hence, they could not help but grab hold of an opportunity and start a heaven-shattering massacre. We have always said that there is a certain Devour-class devil who is wantonly slaughtering. None of them dared to call themselves destruction devils. Forefather Tianyu shook his head. Furthermore, the more destruction devils there are at the boundary of the void, the greater the frequency of their large-scale attacks. Occasionally, they would kill their way to the final spatial barrier. As a result, in the large-scale massacres across the 5 great sacred worlds and primal chaos void, the frequency of discovering traces of destruction devils is increasing. Everyone understands. Right now we still have the upper hand, but as time goes on, our advantage will become smaller and smaller until we are at a disadvantage. In the end, he couldn't hold on any longer. Damn it, that Saint Master isn't helping at all. If he were to help, it would be much easier for us. Dongbo Shuang remained silent. Even if the Holy Master were to help, he would only be able to delay the process of destruction. Maybe Sacred Master understands that the destruction devils will become more and more rampant, and he no longer has the patience to deal with them. Forefather Tianyu said, "The early Sacred Masters were extremely patient. They could lay dormant for a long time for a certain goal. But this time, just to vent his anger, he consumed a portion of the origin energy that he had accumulated for a long time to kill your master, Guqi. Not for benefits, but just to vent his anger? This is something the Holy Lord would never do in the past. Both internal and external troubles." Forefather Tianyu shook his head. Naturally, Sacred Master isn't a worry. He can't affect the overall situation. The most fatal ones are the destruction devils. Maybe there will be a day when this primal chaos void is destroyed, but we should try our best to delay for as long as possible. As time goes by, a miracle might happen. We have already done our best to defend against these destruction devils at the boundary of the void. What worries us now is the destruction devils that have infiltrated in. They are extremely careful. Cosmos gods have even investigated in the dark several times, yet they seem to be able to detect the existence of cosmos gods. They would not appear at all. And primal chaos existences have no hope of victory at all. They might even lose their lives if they are careless. Of the 10 primal chaos existences that have fallen recently, 2 died in battle at the boundary of the void, and 2 died in internal battles. The other 6 were assassinated by these destruction devils that have infiltrated in. Dongbo Shuang was startled. The name list of the 10 primal chaos existences that had fallen recently appeared in his mind. We have always concealed this secret precisely because we are afraid of causing panic among the cultivators in the primal chaos void across the 5 great sacred worlds. Forefather Tianyu said, "AI. When cosmos gods get close, they will not appear at all. They do not have the confidence to deal with primal chaos existences either. Those at the 9th level strength do not dare to take the risk either." Forefather Tianyu shook his head. After all, there have been 2 peak 8th level existences that have fallen. Thus, we hope to find a primal chaos existence with 9th level strength and the ability to escape through an ultra-long distance teleportation to investigate. Forefather Tianyu said, "But there are very few at the 9th level strength. Furthermore, they have to use ultra-long distance teleportation. Before you, there are only 3 of them." Dongbo Shuang knew about this too. There were very few who could use ultra-long distance teleportation, and the number of cosmos gods who could use it could be counted with one's fingers. As there were many primal chaos existences, there were a batch of them, but there were indeed only 3 who could reach the 9th level strength. 1 from the ancient sacred religion, 1 from the ancestor mother religion, and the last one from the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master. Forefather Tianyu felt helpless. Neither the 6 great holy grounds nor the myriad ancient sacred world have any. But you have hope. Forefather Tianyu looked at Dongbo Shuang. You know how to use ultra-long distance teleportation, and you are currently at the peak of the 8th level. The moment you reach the 9th level strength, you will be the best candidate. Forefather Tianyu said. Dongbo Shuang nodded, but he could not help but ask. Even 2 peak 8th level existences died in battle, and we could not save them in time. Are there cosmos gods among the destruction devils that have infiltrated in? This is also why we feel that those at the 9th level, who know how to use ultra-long distance teleportation, are the most suitable candidates. Forefather Tianyu said solemnly. Even though we do not have any evidence, we suspect that there are cosmos god destruction devils that have infiltrated in, and those at the 9th level would not be killed instantaneously. They could survive for a while. Relying on ultra-long distance teleportation would allow them to easily survive. Naturally, we will also prepare a huge gift for you. With this gift in addition to your own strength, you will naturally be fine. Forefather Tianyu said. Following this, you should pay more attention to your survival techniques and become stronger in this aspect. Forefather Tianyu said. Your current survival capabilities should be ranked in the top 30 amongst primal chaos existences. If your Imperial Dragon inheritance reaches the 9th transformation, coupled with your voidification ability and your ability to hide in the illusory world, Your survival capabilities should be ranked in the top 10. Dongbo Shuiying understood. There were about 20 primal chaos giants at the 9th level, and a large batch at the peak of the 8th level. If Shuiying were to rely on the 8th transformation of the Imperial Dragon inheritance, his defenses would be ranked outside the top 100. After all, the fleshy bodies of the Devour class system were extremely strong. There was also the strongest warrior system, Hex cultivation, and some ancient cultivation systems with unique talents. There were many who had strong survival capabilities. Dongbo Shuiying's physical defenses could be ranked in the top 30, and that was quite terrifying. If he were in the top 10, he would be able to resist against the attacks of cosmos gods. By then, coupled with this huge gift that we have prepared, you will be safer. Forefather Tianyu chuckled. Of course, your offensive techniques are still slightly weaker. Currently, your offense is ranked in the top 50 amongst primal chaos existences. In the future, I hope that you can deal against those extremely powerful destruction devils that have infiltrated our world. You can't kill them within a short period, and they can escape in different directions. I understand. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Go to the boundary of the void and properly cultivate. The majority of those at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength have experienced countless battles at the boundary of the void. Forefather Tianyu said. Amen. Dongbo Shuiying was looking forward to it too. Fighting with the destruction devils at the boundary of the void was one aspect of tempering oneself. The other aspect was that after killing the destruction devils, they would emit a unique energy that was similar to the energy from the origin world rocks. Absorbing it would greatly benefit the soul. Furthermore, the stronger the destruction devils killed, the greater the help it would provide. Ordinary gray-armored destruction devils would emit energy comparable to ordinary origin world rocks after they died. If they were blood-armored, the effect would be even better than using origin world rocks. If they were golden-armored, that would be even more amazing. These were all meant to improve the quality of the soul. Hence, fighting there was one aspect of accumulating experience, and the quality of the soul could be improved too. That was why the majority of 9th level Star Pagoda primal chaos existences would appear after tempering themselves there. Chapter 956. Oh right. What do you need to prepare for this trip to the boundary of the void? Forefather Tianyu chuckled. Your teacher has left behind many treasures for you. There is no need for you to not use them. Even though the resources required for the Cinnabar inheritance and Imperial Dragon inheritance had been prepared, it was just a tiny bit compared to the treasures left behind by Gu Qi. I do indeed need to prepare. Dongbo Shuiying said. I need 100,000 origin world rocks. 100,000? Forefather Tianyu was startled. Do you want to eat it? Yes. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Forefather Tianyu laughed out loud. What a fellow. Those who are willing to eat 100,000 origin world rocks at the primal chaos realm can be counted with one's fingers. At least I know of two. Some had great harvests during fortuitous encounters, and they would not publicize it even if they ate it. 100,000 origin world rocks should be beneficial to those at the primal chaos realm. If a cosmos god were to eat it, it would be of lesser help. Dongbo Shuiying said. All right, I'll prepare it for you. Forefather Tianyu chuckled and nodded. I'll still deduct it from the 300,000 origin world rocks. Other than that, I need a secret treasure that could weaken attacks. Dongbo Shuiying said. At the boundary of the void, he felt that he was powerful, but it was better to be cautious. What's the price? Forefather Tianyu asked. Between 50,000 to 100,000 origin world rocks. Dongbo Shuiying said. He still had to keep some treasures for himself, since he did not know how long it would take for him to accumulate such a huge amount of wealth. In the future, he might need it urgently. Indeed, you can exchange for a better secret treasure. Forefather Tianyu nodded after hearing the price. There aren't many secret treasures. I feel that the most suitable one for you is the one in the hands of Wuxia. It's called Three-Colored Layered Cloud. I'll ask Wuxia first to see what price I can buy it for. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Ordinary void god weapons were negligible to him. Only secret treasures could help him. What was a secret treasure? A cosmos-ranked treasure. Some of them were terrifying treasures that were born naturally in the chaos void, or the primitive ancient sages sector, and slightly modified into some special items. Or perhaps it was purely a treasure with a mysterious origin. For instance, that third fire cloud realm cauldron of Monarch 9 Cloud had an unknown origin, but it was so precious that even Sacred Master desired to get it. He had dealt against Monarch 9 Cloud time and time again. Thus, cosmos-ranked treasures could only be considered the bottom rung of secret treasures. Ancestor Sorcerer has mentioned that 80,000 origin world rocks. Forefather Tianyu turned to Shuang. Wuzu Shuang Dongbo Shui. Dongbo Shui Chen. Wuzu Wu. And Wu. Haha, I've already spoken to Ancestor Sorcerer. He'll soon send his subordinates over. Oh, this is the detailed information regarding the secret treasure 3-colored layered cloud that he just sent over. Forefather Tian, you sent a set of information to Shuang. If he didn't buy it, Forefather Tianyu and the others would have a rough idea. Dongbo Shuang took a look. The triple-colored heavy cloud was a mystical cloud that the sorcerer ancestor had discovered in the vast void of primordial chaos. He had also traced back time to investigate the birth process of the triple-colored heavy cloud. This was originally a special cloud that was born during the primitive ancient sacred world era. Later on, when it shattered, it underwent some changes. After Wu Zhu researched on its many characteristics, he eventually created this secret treasure based on its characteristics. Wu Zhu sent someone to deliver the 3-colored heavy cloud. Ancestor Tian, you kept it personally, and passed it to Dongbo Shuang. Evidently, this secret treasure had landed in the hands of Dongbo Shuang. He had to keep it a secret. Only Ancestor Tianyu, Wu Zhu and a few others knew about it. 3-colored heavy cloud. Dongbo Shuang held the soft white cloud in his hands. If he were to break it apart, he would be able to see the blue and gold clouds within. White, blue, gold, these were the 3 colors. This secret treasure is most suitable to be used as clothes. Dongbo Shuang sat cross-legged on the silver silk praying mat in the meditation room. He was extremely patient as he started to refine it. The usage of secret treasures was extremely complicated. If one didn't understand it, they might not even know how to use it. Fortunately, the 3-colored heavy cloud was created by Wu Zhu. Dongbo Shuang bought it from Wu Zhu. Naturally, he knew the detailed refining method. The refining method wasn't difficult. It just required time to nurture and refine it. During the refining process, a few origin world rocks would occasionally appear in Dongbo Ying's hands. He would throw them into his mouth and open his mouth. The origin world rocks would shrink and fly into his stomach. It was as though he was eating snacks. He would casually throw a few. After all, Dongbo Ying's soul was much stronger than Jingqiu's. The origin world rocks didn't pose any pressure to him. If he was willing, he could even eat 1,000 of them in one go. However, he wanted to experience the minute changes in his soul. This is indeed the origin world rock. It is rumored to be the origin source energy of the primitive ancient sacred world. Dongbo Shuang thought. The primitive ancient sacred world in the past was equivalent to the current primal chaos void. This origin source energy would strengthen the soul in all aspects. Maybe it would be better to kill the destruction devils. But how many destruction devils would he have to kill to get 100,000 origin world rocks? One had to know that the destruction devils were extremely cunning and would not casually send themselves to death. Even 9th-level primal chaos existences would only be able to absorb 20,000 to 30,000 origin world rocks after a long period of killing. Days passed. Dongbo Ying's soul was transforming every day. It was getting stronger, and his deductions and comprehension had become faster. In the blink of an eye, 19 years had passed. Dongbo Shuang might not be in a rush to eat the origin world rocks, but he still finished eating all 100,000 of them. On this day, the 3-colored heavy cloud had been completely refined. This feels great. Dongbo Shuang felt that these 19 years were a form of enjoyment. The feeling of absorbing the origin world rocks was wonderful. After eating 100,000 origin world rocks, my soul has strengthened by 30%. Dongbua Shueying was inwardly delighted. It might not seem much, but in reality, it was an increase of 30% from his original foundation. After cultivating the 9 transformations of Cinnabar's inheritance, his soul had reached an extreme stage, and it was hard for him to improve it further. In the future, even if he became a cosmos god, the degree of improvement would not be too exaggerated. Hence, Dongbua Shueying was satisfied with improving his soul by 30%. 3-colored heavy cloud. Dongbua Shueying thought. Hua. A soft white cloud lump rapidly expanded on the surface of Dongbua Shueying's body. It turned into a relatively thick snow-white robe. This robe was pure white like snow. Naturally, it was formed from the secret treasure cloud lump. It is quite thick, and it can keep me warm. Dongbua Shueying chuckled. He felt comfortable wearing this snow-white robe. According to what forefathers said, with this secret treasure, my body's resistance should be ranked in the top 10 amongst primal chaos existences. After all, how many primal chaos existences would be willing to spend 80,000 origin world rocks just for a protective secret treasure? To Dongbua Shueying, this was not considered much. His target was the sacred master. And before that, he had to be careful and vigilant. He did not want to fall early. Naturally, he would use the origin world rocks as soon as possible. In the future, when he became a cosmos god, he believed he could earn more origin world rocks. Even if he did not become a cosmos god, this secret treasure was naturally worth it. It should be time for me to head to the boundary of the void, Dongbua Shueying thought. Hua. An incarnation condensed by the side. Usually, this incarnation of his would be responsible for many trifling matters within the Great Void Heaven Temple, like teaching disciples, or participating in some important meetings within the Great Void Heaven Temple. As long as it was not a battle, ordinary matters would consume very little of his heart energy. If there were no important matters, his incarnation could even enter a deep sleep. That would consume a negligible amount of energy. Go. The void by the side of the meditation room warped. Dongbua Shueying, who was wearing a thick snow-white robe, took a step into it. Following that, he disappeared from the vicinity. I will inform you beforehand that I will have a day off tomorrow. Chapter 957. Even though the 7-star oceanic sacred world was very far from the boundary of the void, Dongbua Shueying took a moment to appear from the distorted void. Garbed in a thick white robe, Dongbua Shueying looked over. He could see an extremely small fort in the distant void. This was the fort that cultivators paid a huge price to construct at the boundary of the void castle. The number of experts gathered in the void castle far exceeded any other sacred world. There were at least 3 true bodies of cosmos gods stationed here. As for incarnations, more than 10 cosmos gods had incarnations here. Even the carefree Luo City Lord had an incarnation here for a long period of time. There were more than 200 true bodies of primal chaos giants here. And there were even more incarnations. There were also many Unity Realm experts who came here to risk their lives. This was the frontline resisting against the destruction devils. And today, the new primal chaos realm Dongbua Shueying had come here too. Void Castle. Dongbua Shueying looked at that small fort. He took another step, causing space to distort before entering the Void Castle. Xiao. The Void Castle was in reality huge. It spanned more than 50 million kilometers, and the majority of it was filled with arrays and weapons. Within one of the palace halls, there were a total of 200 over primal chaos existences, chatting in groups of 2s and 3s. They were chatting happily. Wang. Accompanied by the distortion of space, Dongbua Shueying directly appeared within the palace hall. Hall Master Dongbua? Those primal chaos cultivators who were drinking and discussing about Tao turned over. When they saw Dongbua Shueying, many of them could not help but chuckle. Heart imitation religious master. Dongbua Shueying simply replied with a chuckle. He then walked towards the 5 primal chaos existences in the Great Void Heaven Temple. Who would have thought that Dongbua Shueying would come to the Void Castle so quickly? The other primal chaos existences were also discussing. It seems he has reached a bottleneck in his closed-door cultivation. He should be at the peak of the 8th level Star Pagoda strength now. This truly makes us feel ashamed. Even I can't get through the 8th level, even after cultivating for so long. The group of primal chaos existences were chatting idly. Almost all of them were incarnations, all of them resting here, ready to go out and fight at any moment. And at another corner, Dongbo Shui-Ying had met with the 5 primal chaos experts from the Great Void Heaven Temple. Why are there only incarnations in this hall? The 5 of you are also incarnations? Dongbo Shui-Ying smiled in surprise. Later, the Void Castle will also arrange a small cave residence for you. The Primal Chaos Hall Master held an ancient wine cup and said with a smile, when the battle situation is relatively easy, it's usually an avatar that fights outside. Only when the battle situation is urgent will the true body take action. You know that the real body must be in the inner region, right? Palace Master Li Wing also said. Yes, I know. Dongbo Shui-Ying nodded. The destruction devils were born within the boundary of the void within the Lost World Corridor. The space within the Lost World Corridor was chaotic like a strange maze. Even cosmos gods would lose themselves in it and never walk out. According to rumors, there were many layers within the Lost World Corridor, and those layers would give birth to destruction devils. Of course, the layers were graded too. Most would only give birth to gray-armored destruction devils, and it was rare for them to give birth to blood-armored destruction devils. According to legends, there were some unique layers that could give birth to golden-armored destruction devils. Thus, the cultivators started to build a large-scale warning array in the outer space of the Lost World Corridor to envelop the outermost region of the corridor. The moment any destruction devils came out, they would be discovered through the warning array. This warning array region was also the outer region. Meanwhile, in a relatively small area behind the realm formation, the cultivators had completely sealed off the void in this area at all costs. The strength of the seal far surpassed that of the sacred world. Even the cosmos gods within the destruction devils could not teleport. They could only fly slowly. Hence, the moment the destruction devils came out of the Lost World Corridor, they would first be located in the outer region. The moment they entered the inner region, they could only fly slowly. Even though the region was small, if they flew slowly, it would take a long time. The cultivators had sufficient time to eliminate them. At the end of the inner region was the spatial barrier. This was also the final layer of defense. If the destruction devils could charge through the inner region and break through the spatial barrier, they would be able to enter the vast primal chaos void. By then, the 5 great sacred worlds, countless cosmoses, and primal chaos lands would be free for them to invade. They can only fly in the inner region. They do not know where we are, yet we can discover them. We can easily surround and kill them. Leading Wing Hall Master chuckled. Furthermore, even if a cosmos god destruction devil steals his aura and sneaks in, the moment he reveals his strength, we can teleport through an ultra-long distance. A group of cosmos gods will then surround and attack him. Dongbo Shui-Ying nodded. Even though the seal in the inner region was formidable, ultra-long distance teleportation was practically unsolvable. They could enter any location, including the Lost World Corridor. The cultivators relied on ultra-long distance teleportation to explore the Lost World Corridor. They even discovered some layers. After locking onto their location, a large group of cosmos gods would immediately rush over and destroy the layers. After that, they would rely on ultra-long distance teleportation to escape. By relying on ultra-long distance teleportation, the cultivators had gained the initiative. As for the destruction devils, they had yet to discover any ultra-long distance teleportation. Naturally, only the fallen Emperor Juyin could resolve the problem of ultra-long distance teleportation. He had already researched and created an array that could seal ultra-long distance teleportation before falling. Fellow cultivators, tell me what we have to take note of when we go out to battle. Dongbo Shui-Ying asked. Even though he knew some information, those present at the Primal Chaos realm were more experienced. Previously, Primal Chaos Hall Master mentioned that we would usually send our incarnations out to battle. We would only act with our true bodies during emergencies. Celestial Water Hall Master shook his head. That's because the incarnations of Primal Chaos Hall Master are at the peak of the 7th level strength. We are much weaker. Like me, my true body is only at the peak of the 7th level. My incarnations are even weaker. It is impossible for us to gain anything just by relying on our incarnations. Hence, our true bodies would frequently be in the inner region. We would first let our incarnations scout ahead and ascertain the degree of danger before our true bodies would charge in. Only by killing some sufficiently powerful destruction devils would it be helpful to our souls. Dongbo Shuang nodded. The more powerful the destruction devil, the more likely they would leave behind some precious materials. Leading Wing Hall Master added, precious materials? Dongbo Shuang knew that it was not like fighting in the Star Pagoda, where there were no benefits. Battling with the destruction devils. Other than tempering oneself, one could also absorb unique energy that was beneficial to one's soul. Furthermore, some parts of the body of those destruction devils would become unique. Even if they died in battle, those parts would remain. They were all precious materials that could be used to refine cosmos-ranked treasures and other secret treasures. Like Chung Kun in the past, he was a body material of a destruction devil. For instance, a certain golden armored destruction devil's hair could be used as a weapon. His hair was like a true weapon that could not be destroyed. Even if he died in battle, his hair would remain, and this hair could be used to refine secret treasures. It might be worth a few thousand, or even more than 10,000 origin world rocks. This required luck. One had to reach a stage where the body part had turned into a weapon and could not be reversed. An absolute majority of destruction devils died, and their bodies were completely destroyed. I've been stuck at this bottleneck for too long. The help the destruction devils can provide me is negligible. Primal Chaos Hall Master chuckled. Dongbua, you have just broken through not too long ago. You should still work hard. I understand. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Also, you can try exploring the Lost World Corridor. Primal Chaos Hall Master chuckled. Chapter 958. Right, by exploring the Lost World Corridor, we will discover their many layers and directly destroy them. That is how we truly cut off their roots. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master said, the majority of cosmos gods have sent their incarnations in. I will also send my incarnations to be brought in by them. The moment we discover the layers, I can ascertain the location, and the true bodies of cosmos gods can directly kill their way in. Dongbo Shuang nodded. The Lost World Corridor gave birth to many batches of destruction devils. Destroying their lairs was indeed fundamental, but it was too difficult. The Lost World Corridor itself was too dangerous. Secondly, the more important the lairs, the destruction devils would send a large group of experts to guard them. Only cosmos gods with sufficiently high realms would be able to reap greater rewards by sending their incarnations. Most primal chaos incarnations would not be able to reap much rewards. Dongbua, you can teleport through an ultra-long distance. You can send some incarnations in when you are free. Who knows, you might be lucky enough to discover some important lairs. Celestial Water Hall Master said. Dongbua Shuang could teleport through an ultra-long distance, and it was public knowledge within the Great Void Heaven Temple. It is easy to get lost in the Lost World Corridor. Furthermore, the important lairs will definitely be guarded. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. That's right. Even the incarnations of cosmos gods would frequently get lost. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master sighed. In the primal chaos void, the most suitable to explore would be Myriad Realm Tavern Master and his lineage, Mount Chime. Myriad Realm Tavern Master has many avatars, and he can easily teleport through an ultra-long distance. If his avatars enter the Lost World Corridor, even if they were to get lost, they could immediately teleport away. Celestial Water Hall Master, Leading Wing Hall Master, and the others agreed. Dongbua Shuang nodded too. There were two dangers in the Lost World Corridor. One was that it was easy to get lost, and the other was that there were destruction devils stationed within. Get lost. One could avoid it by relying on ultra-long distance teleportation. Garrison. One could rely on ultra-long distance teleportation to bypass the garrison and enter the lairs. Nonetheless, those who ventured in were usually incarnations. Like Inquisitive Sky Hall Master and the others, their true bodies could execute ultra-long distance teleportation, but their incarnations could not. Incarnations could only act as spatial markers. Even if their true bodies opened a passage, it would merely connect the incarnations to the outside world. He could not travel freely in the Lost World corridor. In the past, Wuxia and Void Primogenitor could teleport through an ultra-long distance after becoming a cosmos god. But that was a forceful spatial teleportation, and it required a lot of heart energy. If it was just a clone, it wouldn't be able to execute a move like super long-distance teleportation. Only the lineage of the Myriad Realm Tavern Master. It was said that the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master was extremely hard to reach. Those who had truly cultivated it were Myriad Realm Tavern Master, and the other was the 9th level Star Pagoda expert Mount Chime. The Myriad Realm Tavern Master had countless clones and could easily appear anywhere. Mount Chime was slightly weaker. Other than his main body, he only had a clone. However, his incarnation could also perform ultra-long distance teleportation. Clearly their bloodline wasn't that of ancient cultivators. Rather, they had truly grasped the art of ultra-long distance teleportation. Furthermore, it didn't consume too much of their mental strength, and their incarnations could teleport. The Cosmos Gods have also asked Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime for help in the exploration. They are even willing to pay a relatively high price. Primal Chaos Hall Master shook his head. It's a pity that the two of them have asked for a very high price. Actually, according to logic, every cultivator with strength should come and resist against the destruction devils. After all, this is saving the entire primal chaos void, and also saving ourselves. But Sacred Master and Ancestor Mother are madmen. Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime similarly only recognize benefits. Otherwise, they wouldn't help at all. Myriad Realm Tavern Master's price is ridiculously high. Even Cosmos Gods can't afford it. Mount Chime is ultimately at the Primal Chaos realm. His asking price is relatively low, but it is still very high. He needs 10,000 Origin World rocks to explore 100 million years. If he were to discover a blood-armored destruction devil lair, he would need another 10,000 Origin World rocks. If he were to discover a golden-armored destruction devil lair, he would need 200,000 Origin World rocks. Primal Chaos Hall Master sighed. This price is too high. Dongbua Shuang sighed too. It was too ruthless. Without any harvest, he would need 10,000 Origin World rocks to explore for 100 million years. What if it was 3 billion years? One had to know that Senior Wuxia, who was a cosmos god, had left behind all the treasures to Dongbua Shuang, and the total value was only about 360,000 Origin World rocks. A cosmos god selling all his treasures could only make Mount Chime toil for 3.6 billion years? Even though the price is high, Wu Zhu and the others had once asked Mount Chime for help. Primal Chaos Hall Master said. But just 1 billion years later, Mount Chime merely discovered 5 blood-armored destruction devil lairs, and the Cosmos Gods had to fork out a total of 150,000 Origin World rocks. From then on, the Cosmos Gods no longer asked Mount Chime for help. I've heard that Mount Chime was willing to reduce the price by half, but the Cosmos Gods did not agree to it. The price is too high, and it isn't worth it. Even though the efficiency of the Cosmos Gods' incarnations might be low, over a long period, Wu Zhu and the others have their own techniques, and they have discovered dozens of blood-armored destruction devil lairs, and 2 golden armored destruction devil lairs. Primal Chaos Hall Master said, how hateful. Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Mount Chime, who specialize in scouting, have asked for such a high price. Unless when the destruction devils break through our defenses and sweep across the entire primal chaos void, what meaning is there for the two of them to live? If what we guessed is right, by then, the primal chaos void would give birth to a new world, and they would still die. Dongbua Shuang softly nodded. That's right. It was fine if some of the weaker primal chaos existences did not come to help. But those who could play a huge role, like the strongest Sacred Master and the other extremely powerful Ancestor Mother, did not come to help. Even Myriad Realm Tavern Master and his lineage, Mount Chime, did not face any danger when they came to help. Furthermore, they asked for a ridiculously high price. How hateful! Celestial Water Hall Master coldly snorted. If it were possible to kill them, the cosmos gods would have long forced them to do so. Myriad Realm Tavern Master has many incarnations, and it is impossible to find the avatar of Mount Chime even if he hides. Primal Chaos Hall Master shook his head. This lineage of theirs is truly heaven-defying in survival. Dongbo Shuang agreed. Furthermore, Dongbo Shuang felt that the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master was similar to the 4 diagrams absolute art he got from Emperor Juyun. For instance, ultra-long-distance teleportation was a technique he grasped. He could execute it at the Unity Realm. And now that he reached the Primal Chaos Realm, he could create an incarnation and use it too. It's just that their lineage seemed more formidable, since they could refine avatars. One had to know that other than their lineage, only those with unique talents could have avatars. Nobody can deal against their lineage. Sacred Master. And the others aren't willing to become enemies with them. Our 3 great sacred worlds aren't willing to become enemies with them either. Primal Chaos Hall Master shook his head. After all, enemies who can't be killed and trapped are the most troublesome. Dongbo Shuang felt puzzled. Why didn't Sacred Master, Ancestor Mother, and the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master act to help the destruction devils? Dongbo Shuang could not help but think about the most fundamental black fog spherical hole in the void which he had peeked into, that mysterious higher dimensional world. Do they know more secrets? Otherwise, they shouldn't be like this before death. This was merely a conjecture. Even though he had cultivated the 2nd and 3rd diagrams, his understanding of the higher dimensional world was too little. Dongbo Shuang felt that the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master was similar to that 4 diagrams absolute art of his. Perhaps they might have a deeper understanding of the higher dimensional world. Since those who specialize in scouting aren't helping us, we can only rely on numbers to make up for it. Cosmos gods are going to scout. And at times, we 9th level Star Pagoda experts would also send our incarnations to scout. Primal Chaos Hall Master said. Amen, I plan on going too. Dongbo Shuang said. In the 5 great sacred worlds of the Primal Chaos Void, other than the 2 from the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master, he could similarly teleport through an ultra-long distance with his incarnations. But he had to keep it a secret. Like Mount Chime, other than being able to teleport through an ultra-long distance, he had even cultivated avatars. Cosmos gods could not find his avatars when they were hidden. Hence, nobody could deal against him. Behind him was Myriad Realm Tavern Master, who had many avatars. But he did not have any avatars. The moment he revealed that his incarnations could teleport through an ultra-long distance, it would be troublesome. I'll go and scout by myself. I'll leave behind a spatial mark when I find the lair of a blood-armored warrior, and temporarily not publicize it. After all, if I were to publicize it, discovering many important lairs consecutively would most likely arouse suspicion. When I discover the golden armored lair, I'll directly publicize it. Dongbo Shuang thought. He was guarding against Myriad Realm Tavern Master and Sacred Master. After all, who did not want to obtain the ultra-long distance teleportation technique. Sacred Master could not deal against the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master. But how could he deal with him? Star. Chapter 959. There were many small-scaled cavern dwellings within the Void Castle. Dongbo Shuang was allocated one too. It was approximately half a kilometer in size, and it was rare for a primal chaos expert to have such a small cavern dwelling. But this was ultimately the front line resisting against the destruction devils. Those Unity Realm experts would only be allocated a small courtyard temporarily, within the cultivation room of a small-scaled cavern dwelling. Dongbo Shuang, who was wearing a thick white robe, sat cross-legged. He closed his eyes and began peering through the smallest black fog spherical holes in the void. At the same time, when he was peering into the higher dimensional world, he immediately saw many other holes connected to this place. Through those holes, Dongbo Shuang saw many regions. The further away he was from the region, the further away he was from the holes, and the more blurry his vision became. Lost World Corridor. Under the observation of Dongbo Shuiying, he saw the final spatial barrier in front of the Void Castle. He also saw the inner region, outer region, and the Lost World Corridor that nurtured many destruction devils. So mysterious. Dongbo Shuiying was too far away from the boundary of the void in the past, and he could not see the Lost World Corridor clearly. One had to know that the further the distance, the greater the error in teleportation. For instance, Ancestor Desert had sent Dongbo Shuiying and the others from the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World to the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. The deviation from the Great Void Heaven Temple had taken Ancestor Devil half a day to travel through the spatial tunnel. One could see how exaggerated the error was. The reason why it was so exaggerated was because his perception was too blurry. The Void Castle is relatively close to the Lost World Corridor. Dongbo Shuiying could barely see some of the veins. The entire Lost World Corridor. Under his observation, it felt like an enormous beehive that had fused into the boundary of the primal chaos void. There were many veins within the beehive, and these veins were too complex. He could only observe the larger veins, and there were many smaller ones too. If he was careless, he would get lost within. The Lost World Corridor should be the strangest place in space. Even cosmos gods would get lost in it. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. Let's go. With a thought, a black-robed man began to condense beside him. His entire body was covered in black robes, and his face was indistinct and blurry. There was even a horn growing out of his forehead. He had to be careful when heading to the Lost World Corridor to investigate. He had to keep his avatar's ability to teleport a secret. Of course, even if someone saw the distorted space appear around him, he would disappear into it. They would probably think that the main body had opened up a teleportation channel to connect to the incarnation. But it was easy to hide from his own people. Dongbo Shuiying was worried about the destruction devils. If he were discovered by the destruction devils many times, and the destruction devils discovered that this Dongbo Shuiying had actually appeared at many important locations, it would be slightly troublesome. Dongbo Shuiying did not dare to underestimate the intelligence of the destruction devils. He had to be extremely careful. The path of cultivation had to be cautious. Hence, he did not use his appearance when he entered the Lost World Corridor. He even changed his aura. Being an expert with the highest realm in the Tao of Mirage, it was too easy for him to slightly change his aura. To him, turning illusions into reality was a simple task. Xiao. The space by the side distorted. The black-robed Dongbo Shuiying entered and disappeared from the vicinity. Lost World Corridor. The strangest place in space was the place where the destruction devils were born. In one of the regions. Hua. Within the distorted space, the black-robed Dongbo Shuiying walked out. Amen. Dongbo Shuiying looked around him. He was slightly startled. This place. This was a space approximately a few billion kilometers wide. The space was like a distorted fruit with many layers of membranes stacked on top of each other. Many places within the space were folded and distorted. It was extremely strange and unfathomable. As one walked, he would cross several tens of thousands of kilometers if he was not careful. Naturally, there were places where he would directly tear apart living beings. It is actually a completely sealed space. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. If it were others, this teleportation would have failed, because the sealed space could not be exited at all. Other people would usually send their true bodies to teleport again. This sealed space seems to be in the midst of growth and transformation. Dongbo Shuiying could vaguely feel the transformation of the space, and the folded space here is quite stable. His horizons were broadened. Even though he was a void walker at the primal chaos realm, and had cultivated the 4 diagrams absolute art by Emperor Juyun, the Lost World Corridor, operated by the Supreme Law, still made Dongbo Shuiying startled. Just a sealed space that was still growing was so unique. This allowed Dongbo Shuiying's understanding of the void to widen by a few notches. This was the broadening of his horizons. If he did not personally witness it, he would not dare to imagine the various structures of the void. I should hurry up and find a corridor. Dongbo Shuiying's incarnation, immediately began peering through the most fundamental black fog spherical holes of the void. Even though he was within the Lost World corridor, he could only see a relatively small region of his surroundings through the holes. The further he was, the more blurred his peering became. The law suppression of the Lost World corridor was beyond that of the sacred world. The region he could clearly see was very small, but this space spanning a few billion kilometers was merely a small corner that he could see. There is a corridor over there. Dongbo Shueying soon found what he was looking for. Space distorted. The black-robed Dongbo Shueying stepped into it. When he appeared again, he was in another region far away. There was a dazzling, colorful spatial corridor over there. Corridor. The black-robed Dongbo Shueying stood on this spatial corridor. The width of the spatial corridor was different. Some were wider, and some were narrower. Most were several hundred kilometers wide. It twisted as it traveled. It was like a passage that traversed through many regions of the Lost World corridor. Only by passing through the Lost World corridor could one move forward more easily. Why were incarnations that could utilize ultra-long distance teleportation so formidable? It was precisely because they could easily observe their surroundings by staying within the Lost World corridor. The difficulty of finding the lairs of the destruction devils was many times easier than the incarnations of cosmos gods searching along the corridor. That was why cosmos gods were willing to pay a huge price to invite Mount Chimay. So, Dongbo Shueying walked along the spatial corridor. Every step he took was a short distance teleportation. This is truly mysterious. The structure of the void corridor is even more mysterious. Dongbo Shueying praised. Compared to that sealed space that was still growing, the structure of the spatial corridor, that was the most important part of the Lost World corridor, was 1,000 times more complicated. It was not a corridor that was formed in a short period. Instead, it was a fixed corridor. A fork. Dongbo Shueying looked ahead. The corridor was divided into 9 different paths. This was normal, since there would be many forks along the way. The void is controlled like bricks, forming a fixed passage. Dongbo Shueying was constantly flashing with inspiration. He felt that being the most unique spatial corridor, the Lost World corridor, was absolutely a holy ground for comprehending the void. Ever since he cultivated until now, he had seen all sorts of void scenes, yet none were as unique as the Lost World corridor. Amen. As Dongbo Shueying observed it normally, he was also peering through the black fog spherical holes. He wanted to find out more unique aspects of the void within the Lost World corridor. Naturally, he was also using this to find the lairs of the destruction devils. Lairs? That should be the lairs, right? Dongbo Shueying carefully walked in the Lost World corridor for an hour before he found a region that he could barely discern. Over there, that small corner had a faint wicked and destructive aura. Let's go and have a look. Since it was just an incarnation, he was naturally more daring. He directly executed an ultra-long distance teleportation and entered that small region filled with wicked and destructive aura. Chapter 960. Dongbo Shueying entered this region filled with a wicked destructive aura. Just as he walked out from the distorted void, he saw the appearance of this spatial zone. Lair. This was a unique spatial zone. The void within had been distorted into the shape of a huge tree. On this distorted void tree, many eggs were growing. The eggshells were gray, and these eggs were of different sizes. With a glance, there were a few hundred eggs. The biggest egg had already split open, revealing a destruction devil infant covered in mucus. This destruction devil infant was currently eating the eggshell. Amen. There were 2 fully matured gray-armored destruction devils guarding this lair. The 2 of them felt a spatial fluctuation and turned over abruptly. But to the distance, there was nothing at all. There were no figures at all. There are cultivators. Even though they could not see or sense the cultivators, they were certain that there were cultivators invading this place. Because this lair was filled with destructive and wicked energy, and Dongbo Shueying's energy was incompatible with this destructive and wicked energy. I have been discovered. Dongbo Shueying looked at that void tree. The void actually formed a huge tree, And it could even grow eggs and give birth to destruction devils? Mysterious. If he had the time to carefully observe it, he would be more satisfied. But the intelligence he understood told him that he could no longer delay for time. Hong! Many ripples and thin strands descended. Those two gray-armored destruction devils were instantly shattered into nothingness. That enormous distorted void tree was also forcefully twisted and torn apart. Those several hundred eggs, and some of the destruction devils, that had already been born were all annihilated. This incarnation of his might be weak, and it was very taxing for his soul to control the incarnation from a distance. Even when he executed the first style of the destruction flower, he could only unleash 3 flowers at the same time. This strength could only be considered at the 7th floor of Star Tower. But it was amazing for an incarnation to have such strength. Previously, he had unleashed the plate ripple diagram domain on a large scale to kill these destruction devils. Ultimately, they were just gray-armored soldiers, and it was naturally easy for him to slaughter them. Xiao. Dongbua Shuang took a step before arriving at the spatial door. He then rushed out. Outside the spatial door was a dazzling, colorful spatial corridor. Kill. Chase after him. A golden-armored destruction devil was leading the group of blood-armored destruction devils. They were currently traveling through the spatial corridor as streams of light. This spatial corridor was dangerous, yet it was the home of the destruction devils. Nevertheless, they were very relaxed and did not have to worry about getting lost. So fast. Dongbua Shuang was shocked as he flew away. Xiao xiao xiao. He teleported at high speed all the way. Even if he was caught, he could just give up on one of his incarnations. If he could preserve it, he would do his best to preserve it. The space corridor itself was rather dangerous. It looked dazzling, but it actually contained many traps. Once one stepped on it, they would be teleported into some dangerous places in the Lost World corridor. As an expert in controlling the void, if Dongbua Shuang were to advance carefully, he would be able to spot the traps. But once he was being chased, there was no way for him to differentiate between them at high speeds. The resplendent passageway was filled with colorful fluctuations, as if they were all the same. When Dongbua Shuang teleported once again, the colorful light here trembled, and Dongbua Shuang disappeared. Xiao, a light flashed behind. A golden-armored destruction devil brought along a group of blood-armored destruction devils, and stopped. He looked ahead. That cultivator has already lost his way, yet he was fortunate enough to discover a lair. It's just a low-graded lair, the other blood-armored destruction devils said. The known lairs were split into 3 grades. They were the gray-armored grade, blood-armored grade, and golden-armored grade. Clearly, the golden-armored grade destruction devil lair had the highest value because any golden-armored destruction devil would at least be at the 7th floor of Star Tower. And the strongest of them were at the 9th level Star Pagoda standard. Hence, if one could destroy a golden-armored graded lair, it would be a huge victory. That time, Mount Chime made such a harsh request that he had to pay 10,000 Origin World Rocks every 100 million years if he did not reap any rewards. Discovering a black-armored graded lair required 10,000 Origin World Rocks, and a golden-armored graded lair required a total of 200,000 Origin World Rocks. Actually, the gray-armored graded lair was not worth mentioning. To Cosmos gods, the lowest-graded destruction devils were merely cannon fodder. Any incarnation could easily slaughter them. Even though the black-armored graded lair was worthy of attention, it was not worth much in the eyes of Cosmos gods. They invited Mount Chime because they desired to deal with the golden-armored graded lair. This 200,000 Origin World Rocks was something they were willing to pay. It's a pity that Mount Chime could not find it at all. He merely found 5 black-armored graded lairs, and they had to pay 150,000 Origin World Rocks. Even Cosmos gods could not be so extravagant. It was the same for these destruction devils too. They did not care about the low-graded lairs. Dongbua Shuang felt the space in front of him distorting. He soon arrived at a chaotic space. The surrounding space was stacked on top of each other, and there were many fragments of different colors. It was an illusory, colorful world that was incredibly dazzling. He is lost. Dongbua Shuang understood after seeing this scene. Even cosmos gods could not walk out of this place unless he relied on ultra-long distance teleportation. Xiao. After observing for a moment, Dongbua Shuang stepped into the distorted space by the side and left. On a fixed spatial corridor, Dongbua Shuang appeared. This time, he was moving forward carefully. 5 days later, he discovered another lair. This time, he did not recklessly enter the lair. Instead, he came to a withered space close to the lair. Within this withered space, this space was slowly growing. There were no living beings within. Dongbua Shuang came within. Amen. Dongbua Shuang peered through the black fog spherical hole. Because the lair was just beside, he could see everything clearly. Yet another gray-armored graded lair. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. This lair did not have much value in attacking it. Time passed. Dongbua Ying's incarnation continued moving stealthily within the Lost World corridor. Other than the first time he entered a lair out of curiosity, he would enter some spatial zones by the side of the lair and peek at it from a closer distance. But he finally understood that the Lost World corridor was ultimately half the size of an ordinary sacred world. It would take several days to find a low-graded lair, much less a black-armored lair. Mount Chime could only find 5 black-armored lairs with his techniques. It was hard to find them. Dongbua Shuang spent more time on cultivation. Finding the lair was just something he did along the way. Along the way, he was observing all sorts of unique aspects of the void in the Lost World corridor. His understanding of the void deepened, and his walker's hidden secret improved once again. The exploration of the inner regions of the Lost World corridor was destined to take a very long time. And within the Void Castle, within a huge palace hall, many primal chaos experts were in groups of 2s and 3s. Almost all of them were incarnations. Dongbua Shuang had also separated an incarnation here. As long as this incarnation did not battle, maintaining it would consume very little heart energy. These destruction devils are really vigilant. They usually move in the outer region and don't dare to enter the inner region. They aren't foolish either. They can only fly slowly in the inner region and naturally don't dare to barge in. At the corner of the palace hall, there was a huge projection floating in midair. The projection showed the entire inner region and outer region. There were many destruction devils moving in the outer region, and there were very few destruction devils entering the inner region. Only a few dozen teams. Furthermore, they were all near the boundary of the outer region. Clearly, the moment things went wrong, they could escape into the outer region. Xiao xiao xiao. As if they had received an unseen order, a total of 12 teams of destruction devils in the outer region entered the inner region at the same time. They were similarly at the boundary. Another 12 teams have entered the inner region. Who is going this time? At that moment, a primal chaos expert asked. Me. Me alone. Let me. At that moment, many primal chaos experts stood up. At the same time, they contacted the Void Castle through their communication talismans. I've been in the Void Castle for quite some time now. It is time for me to go out and fight with these destruction devils. Dongbua Shuang also stood up. They took the initiative to fight with the destruction devils, and the destruction devils were deliberately at the boundary. Clearly they wanted to fight with them too. According to the observations of the cultivators, it was beneficial for the destruction devils to become stronger when they killed other cultivators. Very soon, the Void Castle started making arrangements. The 12 primal chaos experts were to deal with 12 teams respectively. The incarnations were only used to probe the strength of the other party. Ultimately, they still had to rely on their true bodies to eliminate the other party. Not relying on their true bodies, some of the stronger golden-armored destruction devils could not be dealt with by the incarnations of cosmos gods. Chapter 961. In the inner region by the boundary of the void, the vast void was filled with nothingness. South, a team of black-armored destruction devils was flying at high speed. They were cautiously observing their surroundings. Be careful, there is a cultivator approaching us. Within this team of destruction devils, an unremarkable-looking thin and small destruction devil transmitted. Yes, General. The other destruction devils immediately felt their hearts tightening. They did not doubt their generals at all. If not for the kings requesting them, existences at the level of generals would disdain from leading them into battle. Not far away, the incarnation of Dongbo Shuang was currently using his control of the void to observe this team of destruction devils. 100 black-armored destruction devils? This group of destruction devils isn't foolish. Why would they send 100 black-armored destruction devils to their deaths? The strength of the black-armored destruction devils was between the 4th and 6th level Star Pagoda standard. If there were only 100 black-armored destruction devils, Dongbo Shuaying's true body could easily slaughter them all. According to Dongbo Shuaying chatting with other primal chaos existences during these few days, Dongbo Shuaying understood how cunning the destruction devils were. Their intelligence wasn't any weaker than cultivators. It was hard to kill them. Descend. Dongbo Shuaying's incarnation rapidly approached. Following that, he did not hesitate to unleash the destruction flowers. Hua hua hua. At that moment, 3 destruction flowers descended. 3 black flower buds wrapped around each other. Just as they descended, they wrapped around the leading black-armored destruction devil. Within the team of destruction devils, an unremarkable thin and small destruction devil sneered inwardly. You are here. Cultivator, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. From the moment Dongbo Shuaying's incarnation started fighting until his true body appeared, this battle lasted for the time taken to brew a cup of tea before it ended. Void Castle, within the enormous palace hall. Dongbo Shuaying and Primal Chaos Hall Master walked out from the distorted void. Dongbo Shuaying still had a look of unwillingness. These destruction devils are indeed cunning. The moment Primal Chaos Hall Master acted, they did not hesitate to escape. Dongbo Shuaying shook his head unwillingly. He had carefully prepared himself, and even unleashed all of his abilities. In order to capture all of them in one fell swoop, he had even invited the Master of Chaos Temple to attack together with him. The Master of Chaos Temple had also agreed to it. According to the plan, the Master of Chaos Temple would hide in the paradise when they attacked, and would only attack at the crucial moment. Unfortunately, the plan could not keep up with the changes. The destruction devils were the first to act, forcing Dongbo Shuaying into a predicament, forcing Primal Chaos Hall Master to appear. I have just killed 2 black-armored destruction devils, and they are already going crazy. Dongbo Shuaying sighed. I know that there must be someone formidable amongst them. Who would have thought that there are 3 golden-armored destruction devils hidden within? The 3 golden-armored destruction devils were each more ruthless than the other. The strongest golden-armored destruction devil should be at the 9th level Star Pagoda standard. The horn on his forehead shot out, turning into a rolling black flame star that pierced through the void. At that time, Dongbo Shuaying had unleashed a total of 25 6-petal boundary realm destruction flowers. Layers of black flower buds were stacked together to trap and seal the destruction devil. Nevertheless, under the black star formed by that horn, they were shattered. Naturally, because he was hiding in the illusory realm, the power of the black star was affected. After that, the surface of Dongbo Shuaying's body let out a golden light. Furthermore, there was a blue light protecting his body. The power of the secret treasure 3-colored layered cloud was extraordinary. Under the suppression of the golden light and the distortion of the blue light domain, Dongbo Shuaying was able to easily parry the greatly weakened black flame star with a single palm. That black star rapidly retreated after its attack failed. This also allowed Dongbo Shuaying to witness the combat power of a 9th level destruction devil. Compared to it, his destruction flowers were still too weak. If there was only one golden armored destruction devil, he would not have fallen into such a predicament. But the other 2 were both at the peak of the 8th level. Furthermore, the 3 golden armored destruction devils were able to coordinate perfectly. When the 3 of them worked together, it was equivalent to 3 9th level Star Pagoda experts. Under their collaboration, the first move had practically forced Dongbo Shuaying into a predicament. It seemed that Dongbo Shuaying could only rely on his defenses to resist against it. At this moment, Primal Chaos Hall Master, who was hiding in the Eden treasure brought by Dongbo Shuaying, acted. The moment he acted, it was world-shaking. Primal Chaos Hall Master was famous. Amongst those at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength, he had lived for a very long time, and was highly respected. His combat power was indeed abnormally horrifying. Dongbua Shuiying had long known that Primal Chaos Hall Master was considered to be at the peak of Primal Chaos realm. He estimated that Black Emperor might be able to fight against him. He used the title Primal Chaos, and many cultivators believed in him. This time, Dongbua Shuiying finally experienced his true strength. This was a strength that could allow him to survive, even when fighting against cosmos gods. If one were to say that the Black Star, executed by the Golden Armored Destruction Devil, was at the true 9th level power, then when Primal Chaos Hall Master rotated his hands, the void was torn apart into Primal Chaos. That Black Star was torn apart, causing a single horn to appear. That single horn naturally turned into a golden light and escaped. Primal Chaos. The 3 Golden Armored Destruction Devils were greatly alarmed when they saw this. They did not hesitate to escape. Within the enormous palace hall, Dongbua Shuiying and Primal Chaos Hall Master were walking side by side. Primal Chaos Hall Master chuckled. This team is quite formidable. 3 Golden Armored Destruction Devils. 1 at the 9th level, and 2 at the peak of the 8th level. Their teamwork is even more amazing. If they are lucky, they might be able to kill one of their Primal Chaos existences. Amen. Dongbua Shuiying agreed. It was extremely difficult to kill a Primal Chaos giant. Dongbua Shuiying was confident of himself. In addition to the help from Primal Chaos Hall Master, the 2 of them sufficed. If it were some weaker Primal Chaos existences, usually 7 to 8 of them would work together. They might even work together with arrays and protective treasures. Even if they met with danger, the Void Castle would send out more experts to support them. Hence, even if Dongbua Shuiying met a slightly stronger team, he had to be lucky before he could kill a Primal Chaos existence. The moment you appeared, they immediately escaped. Dongbua Shuiying chuckled. He had already walked with Primal Chaos Hall Master to where the group of experts in the Great Void Heaven Temple were chatting. Haha Dongbua. Inquisitive Sky Hall Master who was seated there said. Primal Chaos Hall Master has been fighting for a long time, and those destruction devils are already afraid of you. Even though there are some Golden Armored Destruction Devils at the 9th level, none of them could fight against Primal Chaos Hall Master. Even if their cosmos gods appeared, Primal Chaos Hall Master could still resist for some time. They escaped the moment they saw me. They are good at escaping too, and it is hard for them to kill a single Golden Armored Destruction Devil. Primal Chaos Hall Master shook his head. Amen. I've only killed 2 Black Armored Destruction Devils this time. Dongbua Shuiying nodded in agreement. You killed 2? And at the Black Armored rank? That's very amazing. Including those from the Great Void Heaven Temple, and the other Primal Chaos existences who heard it, they were all praising. When both parties fought, it was rare for the cultivators to die since the inner region was their home ground. But the Destruction Devils had similarly gained experience. It was relatively easier to kill those at the Grey Armored rank, and it was possible for them to encounter them by relying on their incarnations to roam the outer region. But it was harder to kill the Black Armored rank Destruction Devils. Once their team worked together, even their incarnations could not eliminate them. The 3 Golden Armored Destruction Devils are leading a group of Black Armored Destruction Devils, primarily for the sake of tempering those Black Armored Destruction Devils. Primal Chaos Hall Master said, tempering oneself through battles and experiencing some dangers are beneficial to the Destruction Devils. If they kill us cultivators, it will be of greater help to them, and they will gradually become stronger. Dongbua, your illusory realm is sufficiently formidable. It caused one of their Golden Armored rank to fall for it, causing them to make a mistake when saving the Black Armored rank. That was why you could kill 2 Black Armored rank Destruction Devils. Primal Chaos Hall Master said. After this, they should be more guarded against you. It will be harder for you to kill 2 more Black Armored Destruction Devils. Amen. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. During the killing, there would be an unseen unique energy being absorbed by his soul. It felt similar to absorbing Origin World rocks, just that the effect was better. It should be comparable to absorbing more than 100 origin world rocks. Xiao. The 3 golden-armored destruction devils directly arrived at the Lost World corridor. They stepped onto one of the spatial corridors with great familiarity. The 3 of them walked side by side, and the leading one was a single-horned silver-eyed destruction devil. He muttered, "This time, we should have met that genius cultivator recorded in the intelligence, Dongbo Shuiying, who has reached the 7th level strength at the Unity Realm. He is also the Mirage Hall Master of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Currently he is very strong, especially with his illusory realm technique. Those who are slightly weaker would easily fall for it. Fong, you have fallen for it this time. Amen. It is I who was slower by a step and suffered a loss." A rather ugly golden-armored devil with a huge head, a bloody mouth, and several rows of teeth said in a deep voice. His offensive power is ordinary, and his threat level isn't high. But with this illusory realm technique, his threat level can be judged at the initial 9th level. The single-horned silver-eyed destruction devil said, "If not for his illusory realm technique, according to their judgment, Dongbo Shuiying's threat level would not be at the 9th level. If not for that primal chaos appearing, we might be able to eliminate that Dongbo Hall Master if we work together." That's right. Primal chaos has a threat level of above the 9th level. He is indeed terrifying. This is the 2nd time I met him. On the side of the cultivators, there are a total of 5 who reached the 9th level, and this is including 2 cosmos gods. This time we met one. The 3 of them traveled in the Lost World corridor. Their moods weren't good. The destruction devils had their own criteria for judging the cultivators. Amongst the cosmos gods, there were 2 who were determined to be above the 9th level. Caven, there was one today. Chapter 962. Deep within the Lost World corridor, within a hidden space, within a tranquil ice palace hall, there were currently 6 figures seated. Their auras were all reserved. Some were wearing black scales, some were violet, and some were wearing robes commonly seen by cultivators. 2 of them even had the appearance of a human. "Little sister Shui Yong, why did you summon us over? Those fools are led by you. Little sister Shui Yong, there are some matters that you can decide yourself, and there's no need to find us." The other 5 figures were very casual. They did not have the wicked aura that ordinary destruction devils had. Furthermore, as long as they changed their appearances, it would be hard for others to recognize them. A girl covered in snow-white scales chuckled. "This little sister knows that fellow brothers are focused on cultivation and do not care about the matters of those fools. But there is indeed a huge matter that I have to tell fellow brothers." "Oh." The other 5 stared at the white-scaled woman. "Fellow brothers should know that our 8th golden-armored lair is a newly developed lair. Currently, the first batch of golden-armored destruction devils is being nurtured," the snow-white armored girl said. "Amen. Those fools who could not escape from the control of the supreme law, and are often controlled by the desire to slaughter. What is there to mention about them?" A black-robed young man casually fanned himself with a feather fan before sneering. Within the first batch of golden-armored destruction devils being nurtured in the 8th golden-armored lair, there is one who is very unique. We can determine that he has the shadowless talent. The snow-white armored girl chuckled as she spoke. She casually swept her gaze across the other 5. Just as she expected, the other 5 destruction devils who reached the cosmos god level became quiet. Shadowless talent? They looked at the snow-white armored girl. Quick, 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 let's go. It is actually the shadowless talent. Quick. Little sister Shui Yong, don't lie to us. They were all excited. Why would I lie about such a huge matter? Go, 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 fellow brothers. Let's go and have a look. The snow-white armored girl chuckled. The 6 of them turned into a faint light with a so. They rapidly left this space. Even though they were traveling through the spatial corridor, they would occasionally so by relying on the ripples in the spatial corridor to disappear. Even though it was easy to get lost in the spatial corridor, and one might be teleported into the lost region, but amidst the countless dangers, there were some ripples that could teleport through space. The destruction devils were too familiar with the Lost World corridor. This was their home, and they could easily teleport through space. In just half a day, these 6 cosmos god destruction devils arrived at a spatial lair. There were many blood-armored destruction devils patrolling the surrounding regions of this spatial lair. There were even several golden-armored destruction devils who were hiding their strength patrolling the area. Even if the incarnations of cosmos gods got close to this region, it was hard for them to get close to the golden-armored graded lair without being discovered. Besides, the entrance of the golden armor nest was disguised as a closed state, which made it even more difficult to find. If one wanted to find a golden-armored grade lair, they would need some luck to arrive at one of the few golden-armored grade lairs in the vast Lost World corridor. Secondly, he had to be strong enough to evade the surrounding blood-armored destruction devils and golden-armored destruction devils from patrolling. Third, they could confirm that there was something strange about that space, and that they could break through the disguise of the lair's entrance. Only by doing all 3 would there be a chance of finding a golden-armored lair. Of course, this was under normal circumstances. If it was Myriad Realm Tavern Master, Mount Chime, or Dongbo Shuiying, their incarnations would be able to carry out ultra-long distance teleportation. Even if they did not enter, they would still be able to peek through the black fog spherical holes. Whoosh! The 6 kings entered. Within the lair space, there was also a golden-armored destruction devil stationed here. He stood silently on a mountain peak like a sculpture. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked towards the distance, seeing the 6 kings who came. King! This golden-armored destruction devil immediately flew over and bowed respectfully. They were born for the sake of annihilation. Not just the lowest-graded gray-armored destruction devils, or the powerful golden-armored destruction devils. All of them had a strong desire to slaughter. One could say that golden-armored destruction devils had better control over their strength, but they would still not be able to resist killing time and time again. Only when they truly broke through the bottleneck of life, breaking out of this cage, and reaching the cosmos god level, could they break free from the control of their desires. And this level was also known as King by many destruction devils. Amen. The 6 kings came before the ancient void tree. The entire lair condensed into a single ancient void tree, being the highest graded destruction devil lair. This ancient void tree was exceptionally exquisite and beautiful. Every single branch was sparkling and translucent. Every branch was formed from space, and the degree of profoundness in the construction of space made even void primogenitor and Emperor Jian startled. The 6 kings looked upwards. On the ancient void tree, there were currently 9 golden eggs. Some were on the trunk, and some were on the branches. Some were big and some were small. The 9 golden eggs had all sorts of strange phenomena. Some golden eggs had flames burning on the surface, and some had violet fog that would occasionally appear and permeate into the eggs. And the smallest one was located at the center of the trunk of the ancient void tree. This smallest golden egg would occasionally turn translucent before disappearing completely, disappearing without a trace. Even the 6 kings present had formidable techniques, yet they could not discover any traces of the golden eggs. Shadowless. This is the shadowless talent? The snow-white armored girl chuckled. The other 5 were both startled and delighted. The destruction devils were different from cultivators. Cultivators had to cultivate step by step from the lowest level. Even void life forms, the strongest void life form was only at the void god origin birth realm. But the destruction devils, even the lowest graded gray armored rank, were at the 1st to 3rd level star pagoda standard. They could fight against Unity Realm experts. And the highest golden armored rank was at the 7th floor of Star Tower to the 9th level standard. This was unquestionably at the level of primal chaos realm giants. The moment they were born and matured, they would naturally have such strength. Where did their strength come from? It was purely due to their talent. They had all sorts of talents, and some were extremely strange. But there was a common point. They were all influenced by the desire to slaughter. If they did not break through the level of life and step into the cosmos god realm, they would forever be controlled by the desire to slaughter. But currently, there was no ultra-long distance teleportation among the talents that appeared among the destruction devils. There were also no heaven-defying talents like prophecy or change the past. But there was a talent that the cultivators had never produced before. Yet the destruction devils did. This was the shadowless talent. The shadowless talent allowed the cultivator to truly fuse with the void as one. This was fusing with the essence of the black fog sphere. At this moment, it would become part of the essence of the primal chaos void. Under ordinary circumstances, it was impossible to destroy their bodies. If they were to hide, it would be hard to find traces of them. If Dongbo Shuang was around, he would understand that this was the perfect pinnacle of the second diagram of Emperor Juyan's 4 diagrams, the voidification theory. But in reality, this did not mean that he was unparalleled. If the third diagram, control of the void, reached the pinnacle, or even broke the cage and touched upon a higher dimension world, he should be able to break through the voidification. That time, Emperor Juyan had reached the pinnacle of voidification and control of the void. As for the 4th diagram, he could not complete it. Even so, Sacred Master had failed time and time again in trying to kill him. He had even tried using the origin source energy, yet he failed. It was even the final battle. That time, Sacred Master had truly gone mad. He fought until the primitive ancient sacred world shattered. That time, Emperor Juyan suffered a fatal injury. He relied on his heaven-defying void technique to escape. He even left behind treasures in cavern dwelling that no one could snatch away. Even Dongbo Shuang could not enter or exit with his ultra-long distance teleportation. One could see how powerful Emperor Juyan was. And Emperor Juyan was heavily injured and could only die in the end. But in reality, it was very hard to break through the voidification technique when it reached the pinnacle. Emperor Juyan was dead. Even though the void primogenitor, who walked on another Tao of void, might be formidable, his control of the void was relatively weaker. He was lacking in the microscopic aspect, and could not even teleport through ultra-long distance. What he did was ultra-long distance spatial great teleportation. Much less refining the void and breaking the cage. Sacred Master might be able to break through it, but he did not participate in the battle. After a moment, that tiny golden egg gradually appeared. It turned from translucent to material. This is the last egg that appeared from the first batch. The snow-white armored girl said. For the sake of nurturing this egg, we spent a long time. The other 8 eggs grew very slowly. But now this egg has formed. The next step is for it to mature. That would be much faster. 5 billion years should suffice. By then, our destruction devils will have the second one with the shadowless talent. Chapter 963. From nothing to something was the hardest. The moment the egg was successfully nurtured, it would be much simpler for it to grow from small to large, and even to hatching. With the shadowless talent, it will be much easier for us. Previously, we have succeeded in sending the kings out several times, all because of General Fu Qian. Previously, there was only General Fu Qian, who had the shadowless talent. The moment General Fu Qian fails and dies, we will be doomed. Now that there are 2 of them, the possibility of one of them dying is very low, so there's even less of a need to worry about 2 of them. The 6 kings present all looked at the small egg that was gradually becoming translucent. General Fu Qian also had the shadowless talent. The cultivators used the void in the outer region, and even the inner region. But it was useless against General Fu Qian. He could stealthily reach the final spatial barrier. Nevertheless, that spatial barrier was the final defensive layer. The cultivators had set up all sorts of techniques to augment the spatial barrier. And even cosmos gods required a relatively long time to break through. General Fu Qian could indeed rely on his talent to permeate through the spatial barrier. But during the process, there would be some minute ripples. Clearly, the various techniques of the spatial barrier still had a slight effect on General Fu Qian. This minute ripple would definitely alarm the cultivators if it appeared during ordinary times. Even though the shadowless talent was formidable, the cosmos gods from the cultivators could fight with the sacred master until now. The moment they discovered the techniques of the destruction devils, they should have other methods to deal against a destruction devil who had the talent, but was merely at the primal chaos realm. The destruction devils could not afford to lose. Previously, They did not care about the price to kill their way to the spatial barrier. Under the violent ripples produced from their attacks, the minute ripples that permeated out would naturally be hard to discover. After this brat is born, we can start the next war after he matures and stabilizes his strength. The violet-armored male with wings said. Currently, 8 of the kings have left the world before. The 3 of us have yet to do so. The few of us need to see the world of the cultivators and absorb the techniques of the cultivators. Who knows, we might be able to break through like Emperor June. Amen. It is time for us to leave. We have been staying in the Lost World Corridor and have only received some cultivation techniques from them. We have yet to experience the world of the cultivators. When will we be able to break through? With 2 shadowless talents, it will be much easier to get out. Currently, the Destruction Devils had produced a total of 15 kings. In the early stages they were slightly weaker, and there were losses and deaths. A total of 4 kings had died. As they gradually became stronger, they teamed up, and it became harder for the cultivators to kill another king. 11 kings. Right now the 5 of them were all out in the outside world. They disguised themselves and traveled around the outside world, even going so far as to learn various cultivation methods. The other 6 stayed behind to guard the Lost World Corridor. This was a relatively safe force that was needed to stay behind. Unless a new king was born, if a king went out, the kings outside would have to return to replenish their strength. Ensuring the safety of the Lost World Corridor was something they all agreed on. Even though they felt that those destruction devils who were controlled by the desire to slaughter were fools, kings were born from amongst them. As kings, their desires were different from those idiots. They wanted to break free of control and gain control of themselves. They wanted to become stronger, even more powerful. He even became the highest existence in the primal chaos void. Even though they would kill as kings, they did not kill because of the desire to slaughter. Instead, they did so for the sake of unique energy, to make themselves stronger. From now on, the few of us will be stationed in the 8th golden armored lair. Before this brat is born, we must ensure the safety of this lair. Right. Don't let it be like the previous 2 golden armored lairs being destroyed. The 6 kings came to a decision at the same time. If it was just a king guarding the lair, it was impossible for them to defend against the cultivators with their true bodies of cosmos gods. But with the 6 of them working together, even though they could not win, they were 100% confident of defending against the invaders. They were also contacting the 5 kings in the outside world to discuss the matter. Very soon they came to an agreement. After all, after cultivating in the outside world for a long period, other than reaping great benefits at the start, it would become harder to improve further. They were willing to return to the Lost World Corridor occasionally. Time passed. The second destruction devil with the shadowless talent was gradually being nurtured. The 6 kings were protecting it silently. The battle between the cultivators and the destruction devils continued as usual. The destruction devils also came time after time to provoke the cultivators. They did not care about the casualties, because their goal was to become stronger. Their final goal was to break free from the control of the desire to slaughter and become a king. The stronger the destruction devils were, the more they hated indulging in their desires. It's just that their desires were too terrifying. Even the strongest golden-armored destruction devils, at the 9th level Star Pagoda strength, could only slightly control their desires. They would occasionally vent out their desires. Battle slaughter. There were casualties, but the number of casualties was still increasing. In the blink of an eye, it had been close to 10 billion years since Dongbo Shuiying came to the Void Castle to fight. His illusory realm techniques were formidable. During this period of 10 billion years, 5 golden-armored destruction devils, and more than 100 blood-armored destruction devils died in his hands. Because the destruction devils that entered the inner region to fight, even if they were at the golden-armored rank, were not as strong as the first time Dongbo Shuiying met. The first time Dongbo Shuiying met 3 golden-armored destruction devils, 1 at the 9th level and 2 at the peak of the 8th level. This was considered a formidable cooperation. Usually they would not be so strong. He would only meet some at the 7th or 8th level golden-armored destruction devils. Dongbo Shuiying's illusory realm had slightly affected those at the peak of the 8th level. That was why he succeeded in killing 5 golden-armored destruction devils in succession. At the same time, when the golden-armored destruction devils fell, there was no need to mention the blood-armored destruction devils. Even though the destruction devils were more vigilant against Dongbo Shuiying's illusory realm techniques, they still had to temper themselves. They could bear with some sacrifices. At most, they would be more vigilant and coordinate with the destruction devils that were stronger in terms of the soul. Killing so many destruction devils, the unique energy he absorbed was comparable to 20,000 origin world rocks. It's a pity that this unique energy could not be sold. Dongbo Shuiying was still very satisfied. He felt that he would be able to hunt more after cultivating for a longer period of time. Furthermore, as time passed, being the strongest expert in the Tao of Mirage in history, Dongbo Shuiying's understanding of the Tao of Mirage was slowly increasing. He had also modified the illusory realm world structure at the 9th level of the Cinnabar inheritance several times. Because the Cinnabar inheritance was created, on one hand, it was to improve his soul, and on the other hand, it was to fuse perfectly with the other 3 great inheritances. The illusory realm world of the inheritance was not considered perfect. It was merely at the 8th level star pagoda strength. One had to know that the 9th sword of the 13 apocalyptic swords was also the final sword at the primal chaos realm. It was at the 9th level star pagoda strength. Naturally, this sword contained part of the great Tao of the cosmos. Actually, currently, if the Tao of Mirage continued improving, it would be developing towards the Mirage cosmos. Every single step would be difficult. The illusory realm world of the Cinnabar inheritance had been modified by Dongbo Shuiying several times. It was true that the illusory realm had improved, but it was not a qualitative change. It is too difficult to grasp a 9th level star pagoda technique with just the Tao of Mirage alone. Dongbo Shuiying understood this point. Comparatively speaking, it should be easier to create the 3rd style of the destruction flower. Within the cultivation room, a layer of black scales appeared on the skin of Dongbo Shuiying. His palms were covered in black scales that were faintly glowing. The slaughter aura on his body was completely restrained. Clearly, after spending close to 10 billion years in the Void Castle, he had finally cultivated the Imperial Dragon inheritance to large success, reaching the 9th transformation realm. Both the Tao of Mirage and Tao of Slaughter were sufficient for him to create the 3rd style of the destruction flower. But to succeed, that was extremely difficult. As for the 9th level moves of the Tao of Mirage and the apocalyptic 9th sword of the Tao of Slaughter, they were even more difficult. Actually, in terms of essence, the difficulty was comparable to the 3rd style of the destruction flower. But because Dongbo Shuiying had the experience of creating the 1st style of the destruction flower at the Unity realm, he had experienced absolute perfection. In addition to the guidance of the stone mirror, the difficulty of creating the 3rd style of the destruction flower was much lower. Chapter 964. Void Castle. Within the cultivation room of a small cavern dwelling belonging to Dongbo Shuiying. Not good. Still not good. The illusory world was beautiful and magnificent. A 9-leaf black flower bud was forming within. Countless veins could be seen on the leaves and petals. Every single vein was being adjusted. Dongbo Shuiying was doing his best to maintain the black flower bud, yet it still crumbled in the end. I don't have that feeling of perfection. I am still far from it. Dongbo Shuiying immediately felt the difficulty of creating the 3rd style of the destruction flower. Even though creating the destruction flower at the Unity realm was comparable to creating the 3rd style at the primal chaos realm, based on his current foundation at the primal chaos realm, his current realm was much higher than when he was at the Unity realm. He had to fuse them perfectly and reach absolute perfection. Only when he achieved perfection would he be qualified to be called a 9th level killing technique. The current him, if he were to attempt the 9th level of Star Pagoda, he could get through without relying on the secret treasure, the 3-colored layered cloud. He would have to rely on his own defensive techniques. Firstly, he had reached large success in the Imperial Dragon inheritance. Secondly, he had the voidification to assist him. Furthermore, he could hide in the illusory world. Only with the combination of these three did his defensive techniques qualify to be at the 9th level. If he were to include his secret treasures, his defenses would likely be ranked in the top 5 among primal chaos experts. But his offensive capabilities were weak. The second style of the destruction flower. Even if he could unleash 30 flowers at once, it was still lacking compared to the golden armored destruction devils at the 9th level. There was no need to talk about comparing it to Primal Chaos Hall Master or Xinghua Emperor. Xinghua Emperor was most famous for his offensive techniques. One could guess what he specialized in from the two words Xinghua. He was known for being cruel and tyrannical. It feels chaotic. The more profound mysteries I fuse in, the harder it becomes. Dongbo Shuang felt vexed in his heart, because he could not even touch the edge of the technique. He only felt that the technique he conceived did not have any sense of beauty at all. It was a failure everywhere. Who? Dongbo Shuang closed his eyes, allowing his heart to gradually calm down. No rush. I can't be too hasty. Compared to the 9th level Tao of Mirage technique, I don't even have a concept for it, and my foundation is lacking. The third style of the destruction flower has at least sufficient foundation, and I have many inspirational ideas. Shuang thought. As for all the failures, this is ultimately a 9th level technique. Even geniuses cannot create a 9th level technique so quickly. Among the other two Unity Realm level 7 experts in the history of the 6 sacred grounds, Heart Imitation Religious Master's cultivation speed was slower. It was mainly because he had created the Heart Imitation cultivation system. On the other hand, Great Emperor Genie's cultivation speed was relatively faster. He reached the peak of the 8th level in 8 billion years. After tempering himself through battles, he was able to get through the 9th level Star Pagoda level in 50 billion years. However, Great Emperor Genie had truly created a 9th level domain technique. Even opponents at the 9th level would have a hard time touching him in his domain. Of course, Great Emperor Genie was an ancient cultivator. Ancient cultivators didn't need to fully comprehend it. They just needed to be able to use it. The difficulty was much simpler than Dongbo Shui Ying's laws of profound mysteries. But it was undeniable that the other party had created a 9th level technique just 50 billion years after reaching the primal chaos realm. Genie Emperor. That cultivation speed in the past had even led cosmos gods to believe that Great Emperor Genie might be able to step into the final realm. However, after so many years, he was still only at the 9th level. In terms of cultivation speed, only the Sword Master of the Great Void Heaven Temple could be considered an extremely monstrous talent, advancing by leaps and bounds. There's no need to compete with Genie Great Emperor. After all, most of the 9th level experts like Xinghua Emperor had to cultivate for countless years to master the techniques of the 9th level. Dongbo Shuang calmed himself down and continued his cultivation. The cultivators and the destruction devils faced each other from afar. Both parties clashed time after time in the inner and outer region. Kill. A battle broke out and ended at the edge of the inner area. The team of destruction devils fled in a sorry state. General Mogu, when is the next operation? The escaping team returned to the Lost World corridor. There were 3 golden armored destruction devils walking side by side. One of them was tall and thin. His entire body was covered in golden scales. His head was also covered in golden scales. 3 black curved horns were pointing forward, and there was some light flowing on his scaled skin. It was faintly discernible. He was none other than General Mogu. Retreat. I'll let other teams move with me the next time. General Mogu's eyes were filled with violet light as he swept across the 2 by the side. Yes, of these 2 golden armored destruction devils, one was at the 9th level, and the other was at the peak of the 8th level. General Mogu was clearly at the peak of the 7th level, yet the 2 of them were extremely respectful. Because the kings had given strict orders, General Mogu had a status equivalent to General Fu Qian, and was above all other golden armored destruction devils. Only the kings were qualified to order them. So, General Emogu walked within the Lost World corridor. His speed was extremely fast, and he was even piercing through space-time after time. Nevertheless, there was a violet-armored winged male following behind him soundlessly. He was one of the 6 kings, and specialized in escaping. During this period, he had been protecting General Emogu in the dark. Emogu. The eyes of the violet-armored winged male were filled with expectations. It's about time. We just need him to send us out. He doesn't have to be too strong. We just have to temper him a little more before we can set off. The world of cultivators. I'm really looking forward to it. To the kings, General Emogu and General Fu Qian were of great use to them. And that was why they paid special attention to them. They even disregarded their identities and personally protected them in the dark. As for the other destruction devils, they were much colder. They still paid special attention to the golden-armored destruction devils, since they would at least be the main fighting force when fighting against the cultivators in the future. Furthermore, it was possible for a new king to emerge from them. As for those at the lower levels, they were ants. No matter how many died, they were too lazy to care. Currently, a total of 8 golden-armored graded lairs have been produced. 2 have been destroyed by the cultivators, leaving 6 remaining. These 6 lairs have given birth to 2 destruction devils with the shadowless talent. They are also continuously producing golden-armored destruction devils. The violet-armored winged male paid special attention to the golden-armored graded lairs, because he was born from one of them. The golden-armored graded lairs are more tightly guarded, and the chances of being discovered are lower. As long as there are more golden-armored graded lairs, our destruction devils will become stronger. We will be able to produce more golden-armored destruction devils with the shadowless talent and more kings. The violet-armored winged male thought. Compared to the cultivators, they were ultimately the weaker side. There was still a gap in their overall strength. Even when they entered the world of cultivators, they had to be sneaky and did not dare to fight directly. Fortunately, they were born with great survival capabilities. Even if they could not win, they could still escape. Hence, the cultivators could only watch as the destruction devils became stronger. Lost World Corridor. The black-robed Dongbua Shueing was currently walking on the dazzling spatial corridor. In his eyes, everything around him was displaying all sorts of profound mysteries of the void. This was truly a holy ground for cultivating the void. Amen. The black-robed Dongbua Shueing was suddenly startled. He was instinctively observing his surroundings through the most fundamental black fog spherical holes of the void. Even if he did not have to deal with those patrolling destruction devils, and did not have to unravel all sorts of concealment techniques, he could simply observe through the black fog spherical holes. But the Lost World Corridor was simply too big. Over the past 10 billion years, he had only found 26 blood-armored graded lairs. In terms of efficiency, he was slightly lower than Mount Chimay in the past. That was right too. Mount Chimay had a complete inheritance. Not only could his incarnations teleport through an ultra-long distance, he even had avatar techniques. It was normal for him to be more formidable than him in terms of scouting. The black-robed Dongbua Shueing did not dare to believe it. He took a step, causing the space ahead to distort. He was directly teleported to a sealed space that was very close to that lair. He peeked again at an extremely close distance. Through the countless black fog spherical holes, he could clearly see a lair not far away. There was an incomparably beautiful void ancient tree there, as well as a total of 9 golden eggs. Golden-armored graded lair? Dongbua Shueying's heart could not help but speed up. He carefully observed. That's right, the color of those eggs was golden. His current state was low. He hoped that he would be able to adjust his state of mind after today. Chapter 965. Dongbua Shueying held his breath. He carefully scrutinized everything within the golden-armored graded lair. A golden-armored graded lair signified that it could produce an endless stream of golden-armored destruction devils. The longer it existed, the more golden-armored destruction devils a lair could produce. The cultivators even suspected that the cosmos god-level destruction devils should have broken through from the golden-armored graded destruction devils. In reality, the Lost World Corridor had produced a total of 15 kings over the long years. Other than 2 golden-armored graded layers, which were destroyed during the early stages, there were only 6 remaining golden-armored graded layers. One could deduce how many kings a golden-armored graded layer would have. Over time, the golden-armored graded layer would produce even more. In other words, a golden-armored graded layer would produce at least 2 kings on average, and there would be more as time passed. Hence, as the war progressed, the number of kings on the side of the destruction devils would increase, and the number of destruction devils would become more frightening. The cultivators would undoubtedly lose. I finally discovered a golden-armored graded layer. Dongbo Shueying felt both excited and excited. Even though the cultivators were not certain of the value of the golden-armored graded layer, they had already publicly announced a bounty. As long as the incarnations of the cultivators could find a golden-armored graded layer and report upwards, they would be rewarded with a huge sum of 100,000 origin world rocks. Hence, many incarnations of the cultivators would head to the Lost World Corridor to try their luck. It was to the extent that Mount Chimay had offered such a high price in the past, and the cultivators had even endured it. Their main motive was to destroy the golden-armored graded layer. It's a pity that Mount Chimay was too greedy. As long as they went to search for it, they would have to pay 10,000 origin world rocks every 100 million years. A golden-armored graded layer without any cash would still cost so much. If it was 10 billion years, that would be a total of 1 million origin world rocks. It was fine if they could gain something, but if they did not, they would have to pay such a huge sum of origin world rocks. Even cosmos gods could not afford it. Amen. Dongbo Shueying's gaze was soon attracted by that ancient void tree. Because he was peering through the black fog spherical hole, he could clearly see the structure of the ancient void tree. His use of the void is too perfect. Dongbo Shueying praised. The Lost World Corridor can be considered a holy land for void cultivation, and the golden-armored layer is the holy land of holy lands. Swoosh. On that day, Dongbo Shueying sent his second incarnation into the Lost World Corridor to continue searching for the demon lair. As for his first incarnation, he cultivated alone in the sealed space for a long period of time, spying on the golden-armored ancient void tree. Actually, strictly speaking, Emperor Jian's 4 diagrams absolute art, the walker's hidden secret, and the void ancient tree all had different uses for the void. But even though they were in different directions, they could still learn from each other. As for the report, there's no hurry. I'll wait until the ancient void tree is no longer of much use to me. Dongbo Shueying thought to himself. Although the void ancient tree was also breeding demons, the birth of golden-armored demons was extremely slow. There were 9 eggs in a batch, and after the 9 eggs were bred, the next batch of golden-armored demons would need tens of billions of years to form golden eggs. The higher the talent, the longer it would take. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it had been 21 billion years since Dongbo Shueying came to the Void Castle. Within the enormous palace hall of the Void Castle. Amen. What? The primal chaos incarnations who were originally either chatting about Tao or staying by themselves, and several hundred primal chaos experts suddenly stood up. They were looking at the enormous scene that was projected by the boundary of the palace hall. That place was constantly displaying the movements of the destruction devils detected from the outer region and inner region. But at this moment, a large number of light spots appeared at the boundary at the same time. After that, they entered the inner region and were flying at high speed in the direction of the spatial barrier. With the eyesight of Dongbo Shueying and the others, they were able to deduce that there were a total of 3,000 light spots just by looking at them. They are attacking the spatial barrier again. All the primal chaos existences felt their hearts tightening. Usually, they would provoke and kill at the boundary. For them to enter deep into the inner region was clearly for the sake of the final spatial barrier. So. Within the enormous palace hall, many figures appeared one after another. The surrounding space was even distorting and collapsing. Many terrifying existences walked out from within. They were so powerful that even Dongbo Shui-Ying and the others were horrified. Other than the Void Castle, it was too difficult to see so many cosmos gods at once, and to see their true bodies. Just a breath of time later, a total of 12 cosmos gods descended. They rushed over from their respective locations. One had to know that the majority of them did not know how to teleport through ultra-long distance. They had to get their subordinates to open up an ultra-long distance teleportation tunnel. Even so, they arrived within a breath of time. Dongbo Shuang carefully looked at them. He had never seen many cosmos gods before. His teacher, Void Primogenitor. Void Primogenitor was a black-robed green-haired male. His eyes were gentle and filled with love for the masses. He glanced at Dongbo Shuang before turning to the other cosmos gods. They are going to attack the spatial barrier once again. More than half of the final realm existences in the primal chaos void and 5 great sacred worlds were gathered here. All of them had a grand and unfathomable aura, of which there was a male who had many shackles revolving around his body. Wu Zhu. Wu Zhu solemnly said at this moment, even though they have failed many times previously, we cannot be careless every single time. As long as we fail once, and the spatial barrier is broken, things will be bad for us. Amen. Then shall we deal with them according to the old method? A huge giant that seemed to be formed from black rocks stood there. He coldly said. No one present objected. Then let's act. The thin and small Jiezu, who was still wearing a green robe, directly said. In the ancient sacred world, steam rose from the huge bathing pool. Sacred Master was immersed in the bath water. He sat by the side of the pool. Suddenly, he felt something and looked in the direction of the Lost World corridor. Even though the ancient sacred world was endlessly far away from the Lost World corridor, Sacred Master looked from afar with a strange grin on his face. These devils are going to sneak into the 5 great sacred worlds again? Their numbers are increasing, and the number of kings emerging is increasing too. The time given to me is getting lesser and lesser. There is also that old fellow causing trouble for me. Sacred Master softly shook his head. He then closed his eyes and continued soaking in the bath. Primal Chaos Void Heaven Green World. The Heaven Green World was one of the small remnant pieces left after the primitive ancient sacred world shattered. It was far less vast than the 9-cloud Great Land, and should only be 1/100th the size of the 9-cloud Great Land. And currently, the Heaven Green World was occupied by Mount Chime. They are attacking the spatial barrier again. Mount Chime stood at the peak of a tall mountain. He had a pair of scarlet eyebrows, and his eyes were cold. He should be considered the most arrogant amongst the 9th-level star pagoda experts. He even disdained some of the cosmos gods, because even cosmos gods who were high above would face the danger of dying when facing Sacred Master. But he was different. He had cultivated avatars that could teleport through ultra-long distances. His avatars were hidden, and nobody could find them. Even Sacred Master was not willing to become enemies with the lineage of Myriad Realm Tavern Master. Enemies that could not be killed were the hardest to deal with. Very good. The destruction devils are attacking time after time, and those cosmos gods will feel threatened. Mount Chime thought. They will become more and more anxious. There will be a day when they agree to my request. Cosmos gods sought his help, but Mount Chime's request was relatively high, and both parties had yet to reach an agreement. This is a rare opportunity for me to obtain a large number of Origin World rocks. Mount Chime was not anxious. He believed that the cosmos gods would eventually agree to his request. As for offending those cosmos gods, he did not care. Chapter 966. The second chapter. By the boundary of the void in the inner region. Xiao. A destruction devil was originally flying at high speed. Suddenly, his body turned into more than 100 bloodstreams of light. They separated and moved forward. The majority of them were still rushing towards the spatial barrier. Exterminate! A cold roar reverberated in the void. Streams of water were surging in the void. As they came in contact with those bloodstreams of light, they were rapidly extinguished. Nonetheless, The blood streams of light had already separated into more than 100 streams of light, and they were very far away from each other. This huge area of effect technique could only cover a dozen of the nearest blood streams of light. Damn! A silver-robed male stood in midair frowning. This destruction devil isn't fighting at all. He has already escaped in different directions. Unless we exterminate all the streams of light, we can't kill him at all. If we don't kill him, we can't ascertain if he is bringing along those cosmos gods. The same situation was happening in other places. On the side of the cultivators, the incarnations of the primal chaos experts were rushing to different places. Even those who were strong like Primal Chaos Hall Master had sent more than one incarnation. The destruction devils moved alone. Even though they were weak, they had already split into more than 100 streams of light, and it was hard to kill them all. Set. The white-robed Dongbua Shuang stood in the primal chaos void looking at the flying bloodstream of light. The illusory realm descended, and that bloodstream of light stopped moving. The illusory realm directly targeted the soul. The destruction devils had split into more than 100 streams of light, but as long as a single stream of light fell into the illusory realm, it would be equivalent to all of them falling into the illusory realm, and their souls would fall into oblivion. These were the faster cannon fodder chosen. Even though it was just an incarnation of Dongbua Shuang, the illusory realm he created was sufficient. This isn't it. Completely immersed in the illusory realm, Dongbua Shuang easily guided the other party's soul to collapse, causing the death of this destruction devil. Die! Xinghua Emperor directly flicked out a clump of flames. This clump of scarlet flames clashed onto one of the escaping streams of light, causing that stream of light to tremble and stop. It condensed into a blood destruction devil that howled in agony. Both his eyes were burning with flames, and in the blink of an eye he died. To deal with these streams of light escaping in all directions, of the primal chaos giants, only a few dozen could deal against them by relying on their incarnations. There were even cosmos gods who were doing their best to act. Nevertheless, many of these destruction devils were at the strength of the 6th floor of Star Tower. The illusory realm unleashed by Dongbua Shuaying's incarnation was too weak, and it was hard for Dongbua Shuaying to eliminate those with strong heart temperament. Furthermore, there were even golden-armored destruction devils amidst the disguised destruction devils. Even Xinghua Emperor, heart imitation religious master, and the others couldn't kill him with just their incarnations. As for his real body, cosmos gods had already given a strict order. Primal chaos giants were forbidden from participating in the battle with their true bodies, because the true main force of the destruction devils was hidden amidst the mini cannon fodders. That main force had cosmos god existences, and not just one. If he sent his true body, it was very likely that he would die. There's nothing we can do. The white-robed Dongbua Shuang stood in the void. The remaining cannon fodders were decreasing, and it was getting harder to deal with them, especially the dozens of golden-armored destruction devils. Because all of their bodies were escaping in different directions, it was hard for the true body of a cosmos god to kill them all. Only Wu Zhu and Jade Light Master had the means to do so. Hung, a terrifying tremor spread over, causing the body of Dongbua Shuang to tremble. He immediately turned over. In the distance, a black thunder tore through the region spanning 1 trillion kilometers. It was savage and ugly, bringing with it a horrifying and wicked destructive aura. It is a cosmos god from the destruction devil race. Dongbua Shuang immediately deduced. Hong! 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 There were clashing in the distance. Dongbua Shuang felt his heart relaxing. Clearly, the cosmos gods on his side had discovered the main force of the destruction devils. When the battle began, the main force of the destruction devils would usually consist of several cosmos gods. If there were just one or two of them, they would be killed by the cultivators. Only when there were several of them could they resist against the cultivators. So powerful, the remnant shockwave in the distance made Dongbua Shuang speechless. A dazzling sword light spread across 1 trillion kilometers. Dongbua Shuang could recognize that it was the final sword of the less than 13 apocalyptic swords. A sky-shaking roar caused the soul of Dongbua Shuang to tremble. He had a feeling that even with the defenses of his body which he was proud of, he would die instantly if his true body went over. This roar gave him a feeling of threat beyond that of the 13 apocalyptic swords. Ding-dang, a sweet melody reverberated in the void. An enormous bird was howling furiously. Many black shackles that represented evil were like dragons and snakes, 12 cosmos gods. Dongbo Shuang thought, of which there are Wu Zhu, Blade Emperor, Jie Zhu, and several other existences who are second only to the Sacred Master. If they join hands to attack me, I'm afraid that their might is not too far off from the battle that destroyed the primitive ancient sacred world. His survival capabilities were not bad, but he could only deal with third-level cosmos gods. If he were to face against Wu Zhu, Blade Emperor, Jie Zhu, Jade Light Master, and others, he would likely be slaughtered. Furthermore, they were currently working together. If he, Dongbo Shuang, went over with his true body, the remnant shockwaves from the battle would likely kill him. Void Castle within a huge palace hall. Dongbo Shuang, Xinghua Emperor, Primal Chaos Hall Master, Heart Imitation Religious Master, and several hundred other Primal Chaos existences were currently here. Even within the Void Castle, they could feel the horrifying disturbance from the battle happening in the distance. If it were a one-on-one, I could still deal with some of the weaker cosmos gods. Primal Chaos Hall Master shook his head as he sensed the battle from afar. Wu Zhu and the others are indeed experts who could fight against the Sacred Master head-on. This disturbance, this power, the moment I felt it, I no longer have the will to fight. We are ultimately at the Primal Chaos realm, Xinghua Emperor said. It is ultimately the cosmos gods that decide the fate of many cultivators. Heart Imitation Religious Master added. Even though all of them were saying so, in their hearts, they desired to step into the cosmos god realm. Dongbo Shuang might be standing there, but in reality, he was watching the battle through the black fog spherical hole. Because the battle was too violent, the core region of the battle had long been distorted, and he could not see it clearly. He could only observe from afar. The most dazzling one on the battlefield was naturally Wu Zhu. Wu Zhu had a total of 9 terrifying incarnations, and his true body was even more frightening. Every single roar he made shook the world. Jie Zhu was the opposite. He was thin and small, yet he would often grab some scales and flesh before stuffing them into his mouth. Jade Light Master was the most beautiful when she fought. She was playing her zither, causing melodious sounds to reverberate in the void. Judging from the battle, the cultivators held an absolute advantage. They were completely suppressing the destruction devils. The destruction devils would occasionally send out some wicked lightning, or some venomous snakes that wanted to bite the cosmos gods on the side of the cultivators. But any one of the 9 incarnations of Wu Zhu could easily grab hold of the venomous snakes and eat them. Today's second night was over. Start out your tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.